I'm making movies at Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 78, Shape-shifting King Kong vs. Hydra. Second update. In fact, with countless movie worlds available for extraction and exchange, there are not many things that can attract Levi, but this Book of Darkness is really something that can attract him even in countless movie worlds. There are very few existences that can compare with it. Its importance is no less than a single infinite gems. If you compare it to the DC world, it should be a treasure of the same level as the mother box. Point looking at the list that Levi handed to himself, Nick Fury's heart was about to bleed. All these containment items were bought by S.H.I.E.L.D. after spending a lot of manpower and material resources, and lost an unknown number of agent lives. But what can he do? Hydra's threat to 957 must be resolved. However, he has no one now. The original S.H.I.E.L.D. is full of talents, but now, there are only a few people who are loyal to S.H.I.E.L.D., and the rest are either foolish, or have already joined Hydra, and Cheyenne was killed by Hydra. He is also helpless. Make a deal, Nick Fury said in a deep voice. For him, the most urgent task now is to solve the troubles of Hydra. The influence of Hydra is still in the dark, and the scandals of those rich and powerful are just scandals after all. Once the situation continues to expand, and the conflict comes to the surface, then it is very likely that a large-scale war will break out. When the time comes, you won't stop just because you want to. Moreover, S.H.I.E.L.D. used to hold a lot of nuclear weapons in their hands, and now Hydra also has this kind of big killer in their hands. Once they want to kill them, they can blow them up on their own land in the United States. In case they blow up in other countries, how can others be willing to give up? At that time, World War III might start. Nick Fury knew that he had no room for bargaining. Definitely, he didn't know that Levi, like him, wanted world peace. Nick Fury reluctantly chose to accept Levi looting for a long time, and took the S.H.I.E.L.D. collection in exchange for the powerful combat power from Levi. Wise choice. Following Levi's order, a shape-shifting King Kong, either a sports car or a chariot, drove into the base of the Cheyenne Bureau. Because it was necessary for the war. This time, Levi basically exchanged for Decepticons. At the price of 20 million points each, Levi directly sent over a dozen to Nick Fury, and spent all the box office balance accumulated by Wonder Woman. But never mind, Resident Evil 2 is making money for him to let go. It's Vertigo. Its noise, Vertigo, is the first helicopter that attacked the Air Force Base, and Noisy is a tank that appeared in the battle in the urban area. Oh, it's the Bonner Crusher. What Levi pointed to was a big guy, a crane about the size of Optimus Prime, the one that was killed by the big pillar under the overpass, and crankcases, shovels, hatchets, surfboards, and Hercules. Hercules is a 5-member excavator group, and there are 12 of them in total, but Levi said before that one will be given away when there are 5, so it is just right. And he also got 10 special items belonging to him from Nick Fury. Definitely, the others are just additions. The most important thing is the Book of Darkness. Aren't you going to catch Pierce? You know, if you fight yourself, the 10 or so will end faster. Watching the powerful Decepticons drive into his base, Nick Fury looked at Levi. After learning that Levi easily wiped out Rumlow and others that night, Nick Fury's threat level to Levi was raised again, especially after he summoned so many Decepticons. Nick Fury has quietly put his threat level is set at the highest level of 10. Same level as Charles and Magneto. That is to say, in his opinion, if Levi wants to do something, it must be a global disaster. This is quite an honor. After all, even if the green fat man caused so many damages in the future, he would only be rated as level 9, while both Magneto and Charles have caused or prevented global destruction level accidents. With today's status, definitely, from the point of view of summoning Cybertronians at will, Levi is naturally worthy of the 10th level threat. With the entry of 12 Decepticons, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s combat strength has been enhanced unprecedentedly. Even though Hydra has begun to install energy weapons. Sorry, is Cybertron's technology a joke? Huge amounts of metal robots stood up, excavators, shovels, mixers, cranes, muck trucks. The 5 Decepticons directly merged into a giant with a height of more than 10 meters. The blue one, the energy beam bombarded its body, which was equivalent to scratching an itch point, and when he stepped on it, the strong bastion, which had been attacked for a long time under the command of Phil Coulson and still had no results, was directly shattered, and countless Hydra agents ran away screaming, or roared and wanted to fight to the death in 1.6, but in the end, they were all doomed. Soon, good news came one after another, and one after another Hydra strongholds were pulled out. However, Nick Fury did not relax at all, because it is not yet the time to relax, and the accumulation of Hydra over the years is quite amazing. Not only Pierce's, but also other people's. Hydra was attached to the Nazis, so it can be said that they collected a lot of wealth. After the Axis powers were defeated, they used those properties to make various investments, and their wealth increased rapidly, absolutely out of reach. And in this world, there is one truth. Wealth is power. Chapter 79. Money can turn ghosts and make Nick Fury limping. Mr. President, as long as you decide to dismiss Nick Fury and choose to join us, we can guarantee that you will still be able to sit here next term. Gideon Malik, a member of the World Security Council, a Hydra smuggler who was picked out by Levi. However, in the eyes of the public, or in other words, on the bright side, he is still the speaker of the world's top consortium, a super large investment institution. And Tiffin Group. And how terrifying is the Tiffin Group? According to Marvel's official figures, the Tiffin organization controls nearly 17% of the world's wealth. That's an astronomical number, and it's no longer a question of how many zeros there are after one. Politics is ugly, especially when it comes to money. Politics becomes dirtier. Nick Fury soon received word from the White House. They want to dismiss me, and even the entire Heavenly Sword Bureau. There was a wry smile on Nick Fury's face. He rarely lost his composure and his emotions were out of control, but at this moment he really felt this way. But helpless, he couldn't think of any other way to break this trick. In view of the bad influence of the recent actions of the Xianjian Bureau, which caused a large amount of damage to public property and received serious protests from the public, after discussion, the Xianjian Bureau was dismissed, and at the same time, the former director of the Xianjian Bureau was ordered to go to the White House to report immediately. Make a mission report. Looking at the fax document in his hand, Levi shrugged. What should he say? Already guessed all this? This can be said, but what is the use? Nick Fury can play politics, but right now he obviously doesn't have the time or the mood to play tricks with the politicians. It's war, big brothers. You are fighting on the front line. You are tearing down the house behind. But, again, what's the use of that sentence? People use money to open the way, and have already bought the level. As far as Nick Fury and this new Xianjian Bureau are concerned, as a government agency, the only thing they can do is to obey orders and then disband on the spot. How did S.H.I.E.L.D. in the movie disappear? Isn't that how it disappeared? In the movie, the snakehead of Hydra died so quickly and made big news again. The 3 helicarriers aimed at their own citizens and even directly killed the people in the White House. No one would openly support Hydra. But, it is different now, although Hydra's crimes have been made public, and Nick Fury has also handed over to Congress and the White House, but the people don't know about it. People don't know what Hydra is, they don't even know what S.H.I.E.L.D. is. There is no New York War, no Avengers yet. As a result of all the information released, people may blame S.H.I.E.L.D. a little more. After all, speaking of it, Hydra was able to grow up, seemingly led by S.H.I.E.L.D. Moreover, will people in the new era really pay attention to the war between the two spy intelligence organizations? And if they don't pay attention or care, then no one will care. If the president bans S.H.I.E.L.D. or Xianjian Bureau at will, he simply did what he wanted to do. At most, he needs to convince the Congress and the congressmen, but again, is it difficult to convince them that there is money to open the way? It's not in the movie. Hydra is up and hung up, and the influence is too bad. Everyone boycotted it. Now even if they collude with Hydra, someone has to arrest them. My job is coming to an end. What about you? Nick Fury looked at Levi with self-knowledge. He knew very well that once the Heavenly Sword Bureau was really going to be disbanded, then the X-Men would probably leave directly. because Nick Fury will lose the ability to fulfill the promise. But Levi is different. Levi has already received the payment for the goods, and Levi himself has a grudge against Hydra. Pierce will not let Levi go, so the next part of the battle is basically handed over to Levi. My job is to make films, to solve Hydra. It's just for fun. Levi laughed heartily, and then a projection screen appeared in front of him and Nick Fury. This is looking at the Earth on the screen and the lit up punctuation marks. Nick Fury was a little surprised. This is a satellite. Every point here is a satellite. You are not willing to fail? Then do it one last time. Give me your authority. I will let people directly hijack these satellites and start a comprehensive search mode. Don't worry, as long as those Hydra are still on this planet, they will never escape. After Levi finished speaking, he looked at Braised Egghead again. But your struggle is not over yet. Although as the head of the intelligence organization, your mission is over. But I think you can go there and play with them. Levi pointed to the White House papers in his hand. What do you mean? Nick Fury was a little surprised. Participate in politics. Levi's mouth curled into a small smile point as he said before. If you want to get a lot of movie box office, it is not enough to provide good works. You also need a stable social environment. Not only stable, but also a social environment with rapid economic development 320. Because movies originally belonged to entertainment projects and belong to the category of entertainment consumption. And if people want to consume for this, they must have money in their hands, know the etiquette in the granary, and know the honor and disgrace. If you have enough food and clothing. The ancients of the Celestial Dynasty have revealed everything about the relationship between economic development and the construction of spiritual civilization. If you can't get enough to eat, who do you count on to go to the movies? When someone is robbed, as soon as you go out, who do you expect to go to the cinema? Nick, you are a very capable person. I believe that you are at least stronger than the people sitting there now. If so, why don't you go to politics? Elected as a member of parliament, I will solve Hydra, and what you have to do is to join the next election with a strong enough identity to become a wise enough and strong enough president, and it is also the first black president. Next year is 2007, and the year after is the general election year. According to history, in that year, the United States will indeed have an unprecedented black president. Levi thinks, perhaps, he can find a better one. It was cold and my fingers were stiff. Hiding under the covers and secretly coding. It would be nice to crowdfund flowers to replace the air conditioner. Carrot. Chapter 80. You still need film money to beat the king of gods. Comrade Aoguanhe is a good comrade, but for Levi, he may not be regarded as a capable and promising comrade. Definitely, compared to President Twitter, he is still good. However, Aoguanhe also did not bring America to the road of prosperity. During his reign, America was still going from bad to worse, and the national debt was increasing day by day. According to data, when Comrade Aoguanhe took office in 2008, the national debt of America was about 169 trillion. When he left office, or when President Twitter took office, the national debt had soared to 195,000. More than 70 billion. The growth rate is astonishingly 86%, and the national debt has increased by $9 trillion. And, aside from America, Levi doesn't just want this country to be strong. How many people does America have? Insufficient population means that the box office market is insufficient. If it is only for the market of this country, he might as well go to the ocean. At least there are more than 1 billion people there, and it will become the world's #1 box office in the future market. Levi focus is global. A cut-down version of Apollo's divine power would cost 1.5 billion, and based on the starting price of a god of 1 billion, adding a function would add 50 million. If Levi wants to dominate the heavens, at least, he can. The strength of guys like Zeus and Odin must reach their level first. And in the system's exchange list, Zeus price is 5 billion. Yes, you read that right. 5 billion. Zeus, who appeared in Hippolyta's story scene, has a price tag of 5 billion. This should be the price of the God King, the same price as the fire seed source, which carries the entire Suburtran civilization. Or it is the same price as Bertrand's God King Yuan Shishianzan, and the Universe Emperor 5 billion is exchanged for one God King. If you want to hang the hammer God King, no matter what, you have to add another God King. That is 10 billion. Don't ask why you don't redeem Superman or Kryptonian blood. The Superman set by the Man of Steel costs 2 billion. Could it be that the Superman of the Silver Age will be cheaper? Let alone the founding Superman, Golden Superman and Thinking Superman. The system evaluates the price based on strength. In theory, the price is the same if the strength is the same, so there is no difference between exchanging for Superman or exchanging for divine power. At most, the focus is different. For example, Superman is stronger in the body, while divine power is more omnipotent. The point is, Superman has many weaknesses in the early stage, not only kryptonite. Even if there is no kryptonite in this universe, while Superman has an invincible body, he also has many other weaknesses. For example, the red sun. For another example, Superman had negative magic resistance before Jincheo. Superman's spiritual defense and magic defense are not without, but his is negative. It's true that his armor is fully stacked, but Levi has to deal with beings who are good at playing magic. There is no one with full physical attack value on the earth. Darkseid, who is professional in staring at people, is not here, and Thanos originally is also a master of magic. Don't forget that he cursed Deadpool's record of never dying. If you can curse Deadpool to never die, can't you curse a person with negative magic resistance to die directly? Moreover, if the exchange is for the Superman of the Man of Steel, Levi feels that there is a high probability that he can't even beat Thor, and he will be directly electrocuted. So, after Levi calculations, the more almighty divine power is more suitable for him, the body of Superman and so on. Let's think about it later, when he has more money. But don't say 10 billion. Even if it's 5 billion, Levi has to make at least 5 movies, and each of them has to have the box office sweeping ability of Wonder Woman. But is it possible? In 2018, there were only 36 films in the billion-dollar club. Is the quality of other films not enough? So what is the thing that won the Oscar for Best Picture? The real reason is that the thickness of everyone's purse is limited. According to Levi calculation, the grand event of buying a movie twice and 3 times will happen once a year. Then, to exchange the power of a God King, Levi can only rely on quantity besides quality. 3 movies a year, each with an average box office of more than 500 million. Then in 3 years at the latest, he can have the strength of a God King. Definitely, there is another way, that is to thicken everyone's purse. When everyone has money in their hands and lives affluent, they will naturally watch more movies. 4 favorite movies, it's no problem to watch them twice. This may seem far-fetched, but it is true. Shiancheo became the world's largest box office market not suddenly, but after the 2008 Olympics Games. The rapid economic development has made people more financially rich. Although they say that they can't afford a house, in fact, it can be found that people's material living standards are actually rising steadily, and housing prices have been maliciously speculated. This is an inevitable process of economic development. All developed countries in the world, all countries have gone through this step, without exception. However, in other places, the manifestation of economic development is very obvious, but the moistening of things is subtle, and people can't see it. However, according to the Good Kings statistics of the proportion of food consumption, which is necessary for life, to people's total consumption, it can be seen that the change in everyone's living standards has a term called Engel's coefficient. In 2017, the Chinese people, the Engel coefficient of China is already lower than 30%, which has reached the level of developed countries in the final analysis. It is the improvement of economic development that drives all this. Therefore, instead of thinking about further improving the level of film production that may have reached the bottleneck, it is better to think about finding a capable president to improve the economic development of America and even the world. For the former, where is the base of movie audiences? Those who should go will go, and those who don't will still not go. But the latter, by soliciting votes from billions of people, turns people who do not have the ability to go to movies into become your own audience. Chapter 81. Nick, you go to be president. Levi, serious face. You go to participate in politics, and I'll take care of the funds. As for your contacts, you've been the intelligence chief for so many years. It's very difficult to get some contacts. It's really not possible. Threats. There are so many senators and congressmen. I don't believe you don't have their handle. Besides, already, when we wipe out Hydra and come on stage with a big victory, I believe your popularity will never be low. People like strong talkers. Isn't Mao Zedong's president also a former intelligence agent? Look how powerful he is. Levi said with a smile. Indeed, Nick Fury has a lot of advantages. He has a tough style and is quick to handle. The battle between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra will inevitably bring many things to the table. So, if Nick Fury stands up at the moment and shows himself to the world, he can almost for sure. He will definitely win a lot of fans in the hearts of the people of America. Besides, you are still black, Nick. Don't you want to stand up for black people? The black brothers all over the world are suffering so much, and they need someone to stand up and lead them. I believe you have also been discriminated against. How is the life of black people at the bottom of the United States? I believe you also understand. Why not be brave? Who said that agents must hide themselves? Assassination and intelligence can certainly maintain national security, but you also saw that when the 520 people in the White House spoke, you can't do anything. So why don't you live in the White House by yourself? Levi is guiding the Agent King in front of him. This is a genius idea. In fact, it is strange to say that in the Marvel comics, Captain America has been president. Tony has also been president, and even Green Goblin and Norman Osborn he has been a president, but this Agent King has never been a president. It's definitely not that his ability isn't sufficient. On the contrary, Levi guessed, it may be that this guy's ability is too sufficient. As a result, the screenwriter thinks that if this guy becomes the president, many things may become too simple, and some problems that will arise when other people become the president will not arise here. Otherwise it will be corrupted person set. Rutong, he is too kind. Although he has a good reputation, many problems cannot be resolved, so he has no choice but to resign. And when Tony was president, he was too arrogant and idealistic, which caused many heroes to turn against him. But in the screenwriter's setting, this one-eyed corned egghead has almost no weakness in character except for lack of strength. Be decisive, resourceful, and decisive. Have your own views and ideas, and have a firm determination and will to implement them. Well, it's the same as Mao Zedong's KGB-born emperor listening to Levi words and the prospects he described. Nick Fury was a little dazed. At first he thought that Levi was teasing himself and even took the proposal as a joke. However, after listening to those words, he suddenly discovered that it seems feasible. No, it is definitely possible to do it. The question is he willing to do it? He suddenly remembered his original intention when he joined the army before and then transferred to the intelligence department. Contribute to the country or serve the people for justice or to prove yourself. What do you want? After half payment, Nick Fury suddenly asked. That one good eye is staring at Levi closely. As the king of agents, he has already seen through people's hearts. He understands that there are no selfish people in this world, but it is absolutely impossible to appear in front of him. Even the Captain of the United States, who is branded as a saint by the United States government, also shows in the information that Nick Fury saw that he is also an emotional animal, but his selfishness is less than that of most people. And the person in front of him, the director on the surface, actually has the ability to subvert the world. He is definitely not that selfless saint. I want world peace, Levi said seriously. What he said was the truth. It couldn't be truer. But he knows that sometimes no one believes the truth. Listen, I don't know what your plan is, but I believe you are not the kind of crazy criminal. Maybe you really want to do something good. I will consider your proposal, but all this is waiting. Let's finish with those nasty hydras. Nick Fury shook his head. He couldn't figure out what Levi was thinking. Just like he didn't know that in 13 years, a mature purple potato would snap its fingers and wipe out half of the life in the universe. Making movies can earn box office. Box office can gain power, and the better the international environment, the more box office you can get, and thus gain more powerful power. Then, after 13 years, Levi will be able to kill that itchy hand, and like to fight refers to the purple sweet potato essence. Definitely, this logic, no one will believe it if you say it, that is, there is no Arkham with a lot of talents here, otherwise Levi feels that there is a high probability that he will be arrested for saying such things. Maybe there will be a wretched Professor Yang calling me. The battle in the Xianjian Bureau was shrinking, and Nick Fury was not able to resist the orders of the White House. In fact, he himself was in some trouble. After seeing the military take over the Skysword Bureau, Levi left with the Decepticons he summoned, accompanied by a team of elite workers that Nick Fury entrusted to him at last. After all, he still has to rely on Levi Record to come back. Otherwise, let's run alone for president. It would be nice not to be caught and thrown into prison. Chapter 82. What will happen to him when the person he believes in appears? After Nick Fury left, only Levi and S.H.I.E.L.D. elite agents remained. And one of them, a beautiful woman in a secretary outfit, aroused Levi's interest. "Hill agent, I've heard of you for a long time." At this stage, there are not many agents who can be given heavy responsibility by Nick Fury. Phil Coulson is just a little level 6 agent right now. Then, the only one who can take on the important task of destroying Hydra is Hill. As for this female agent, whose ability is far more important than appearance, Levi naturally appreciates and values it very much. Compared with Phil Coulson, who went through hardships in the TV series and finally became S.H.I.E.L.D. director, Hill's performance in movies and comics is undoubtedly more outstanding. After the fall of S.H.I.E.L.D., Tony took over the power of the Avengers Alliance. The first thing he did was to recruit Hill under his command. Afterwards, the whole army of the Avengers Alliance attacked, and it was Hill who had been providing them with various intelligence services behind the scenes. This herself is a wolf kill. In the comics, she even squeezed Nick Fury away, and then took the S.H.I.E.L.D. director position, and she did nothing worse than Nick Fury. So, for Levi, she'll be a backup option when Nick Fury is unreliable, and Hill will take his place. As for what to do instead of him, it depends on how far Levi develops the relationship between the two. Director Levi, he's also known for a long time. Hill likely shook hands with Levi. Once touched, she is not the deputy director in the future, but the status of a 9th level agent is not comparable to that of ordinary people. And compared to Natasha Romanoff's merits accumulated through missions, she is a serious professional, graduated from S.H.I.E.L.D. Academy, and then relied on her talents to advance 10 steps. Every time she was promoted, she achieved it with an absolute advantage over all competitors. Therefore, no one in the movie has ever doubted that she was promoted by her nepotism with Nick Fury. After the Security Council launched a nuclear bomb and wanted to depose Nick Fury, she was the first candidate for Director General that came to mind instead of anyone else. Is there any progress in the search? It is true that the aircraft carrier hijacked by Pierce is nuclear powered, but they cannot float on the sea forever, and they always need supplies. That's right. Now that Hydra's influence is spread all over the world, it's hard for you to guess which coast they stop at. Moreover, they don't necessarily need to stop. With their ability, it is not difficult to mobilize transport planes and submarines, although the war on land, the Heavenly Sword Bureau gained a lot after receiving the Decepticons supported by Levi. Otherwise they would not be forced to use the last resort. However, Pierce still hadn't solved it, and the rest of the Hydra snakeheads, except for Gideon Malik, whose identity had been exposed, could not be found. The relationship that broke the game was still Pierce. Only by finding him can everyone be wiped out. The Typhon organization can't be used as a breakthrough. Their headquarters are in Europe. We don't have the right to enforce the law there, and they involve too much. The hidden wealth of the Green Fang organization is enough to shake the financial system of the entire world. It must be the last resort, the goal. Otherwise the world war will start early. In a hidden base of the Heavenly Sword Bureau on the west coast, Hill is preparing a plan. The key now is Pierce's location. Finding he is equivalent to getting news about the rest of the snakeheads. This is how the Avengers Alliance captured Strucker and others' location point. But the Avengers Alliance also didn't dare to touch Malik. A super large consortium with several trillion yuan in funds is involved, and it is not difficult to cause a world war. However, if the rest of the smugglers are eradicated, the Typhon organization will lose its umbrella, and then countries can enter the market to harvest, asking for flowers. There's Nothing else we can do. Director Nick Fury is on trial and we have to move fast, or they'll probably be dealt with first. The tactic chosen by Pierce and others is to steal the home. They are going to rely on funds and connections to directly instigate rebellion against the White House and even the military and government of the entire United States. What Levi and the others have to do now is to defeat their main force hiding in the wild as soon as possible and then push them evenly. The two sides are fighting for time. It depends on whether the United States was defeated by money first domestically or whether Levi offensive was fast as zero weight. Gideon Malik. Levi suddenly thought of something. It is true that the Typhon organization is a giant, but Gideon Malik is not really flawless. Levi can't kill him because killing him is tantamount to mobilizing this financial monster unless he can kill all the Hydra in Typhon's organization in an instant, but that's obviously impossible and the other party is not stupid, so naturally they hide tightly. Reality point. Just because you can't kill him doesn't mean you can't control him, manipulate him. Mind control? No, it's not advisable. With Charles here, don't we know how to prepare mind defenses? The mind shield produced by SHIELD is almost standard equipment for many high-level countries. I believe Marek is no exception. Hill said no. In the face of a mind controller who can manipulate anyone, the importance of developing mind protection technology is no less important than developing nuclear weapons. Isn't Magneto's helmet made by the former Soviet Union? That was how many years ago? No, I'm not talking about mind control. You said, what if Malik voluntarily surrendered? Or, what if a figure of faith appeared in his heart? Chapter 83. How? Scumbag. Carrot. Honeycomb? Hill looks at Levi in surprise. Yes, Hive, the origin of Hydra. Well, at least the Hydra before Red Skull originated from him. Gideon Malik became the spokesperson of the Typhon organization for no reason. In fact, every smuggler in Hydra was not appointed casually. What Hydra wants to build is the Wanquan society, a slavery society. And there is only one kind of person who has this kind of thinking. That is the person who believes in the inheritance of blood. That is to say, the ancient family, which has been passed down for hundreds of thousands of years, has been rich and powerful for generations, and only they want to rebuild the slavery society. Because in that case, everyone would be their slaves on May 47. Because of that, there are only two kinds of existence in society, the master and the slave. And they are naturally the masters. The part of Hydra represented by Gideon Malik is the oldest line that has been passed down for thousands of years and holds a lot of wealth and social relations. People like Red Skull and Strucker were only absorbed to work for these people because of war or other reasons. But often, they have the fighting power and the right to speak. And Levi happened to know what the original intention of people in this lineage has been passed on for thousands of years, and more importantly, other people no longer believe in that legend, that myth, but Gideon did. An ancient alien, regarded as a god, object of worship of the head snake organization. Hill looked like, I think you're just kidding me. If you don't believe it, pull it down. Levi shrugged, and then came to his warehouse. Hive is the villain that appeared in the SHIELD Agent TV series. He was exiled to a different planet, and the connection between this planet and the Earth is a black stone. A few years ago, NASA also sent a group of astronauts to do experiments. In fact, Hydra, or people from Malik's lineage, have been secretly sending people there just to feed the Hive. And that stone, unfortunately, happens to be here with Levi. Well, no coincidence. Levi asked for it. When he asked Nick Fury for a special item. He definitely only thought about the connection to a different planet, which was somewhat valuable, but he didn't think about the problem of the Hive. Now it seems that it was a mistake. According to what you said, the past is not difficult, but how do you always pay back? It is very simple to teleport this stone. When it becomes liquid, jump into it, and it will teleport to another planet. But it is more troublesome to come back. There is no stone to teleport over there, and if you want to come back, you also need to open the portal here. Frequency. Levi said with a smile. The black stone was placed in a transparent box, and every time the stone would turn into 10 puddles of liquid. Its frequency is the key to open the portal. As long as it maintains a certain frequency, it will maintain a liquid state. That is, open the portal, and I will sense it there, and then I can come back in. The TV series, there is a relatively tortuous story about opening the portal, but this situation naturally does not exist for Levi. The strength of the hive was far from him, and the harsh weather over there was not a threat to him. So, this is just a casual trip. However, we have to wait for someone. Soon, Vertigo flying home brings Sky to the base of operations. To open the portal and maintain it, you must cooperate with Sky's ability. Levi used the obelisk to transform Sky into an alien, and now she has enough strength. Use your ability to sense it, and try to maintain it in this state. Kankari, a newly created huge pit. Black stones are placed in it, surrounded by many agents from the Cheyenne Bureau. Levi pulls Sky to stand on the edge of the huge pit, watching the black boulder suddenly spread out, turned into a liquid, and then return to a black stone after a few seconds. I don't know if it will work. Sky looked at the surrounding agents with some hesitation on his face. Although she has a super ability, and Levi also asked Natasha Romanoff to train her in actual combat, she is still just a little girl in essence, not the all-powerful vibe girl who saved the world in the TV series. However, Levi comforted her. It's okay, I'm here with you, just try more. Levi held Sky's hand, and warm divine power poured into her body, giving her confidence and courage, and also strengthening her body, to prevent her from being hurt by her own giant bow. The Inhumans are not mutants, and their flaws are quite obvious. Even the most powerful Black Bolt King cannot precisely control his ability, and thus can only be a mute. Sky's ability will hurt herself, but with Levi by his side, his divine power can strengthen her and repair her body damage, which is equivalent to bringing a nanny to increase blood infinitely. Encouraged by Levi, Sky shot 0.0 and began to sense the fluctuation of the portal. This process lasted for a long time. Thanks to the blessing of Levi divine power, Sky didn't need to worry about Vibe hurting himself and could release it without fear. So, she quickly synchronized to the frequency fluctuation of the boulder. The air was shaken, making a buzzing sound, and an invisible Vibe came out from Sky's arm. Afterwards, the boulder suddenly turned into a puddle of liquid, which remained for a long time without recovery. It worked. Sky withdrew her strength and gave Levi a light kiss. It is rare for her to be able to help him in matters other than movies. HMPH. Scumbag. Hill muttered under his breath. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 84 Mysterious Planet, Ancient Aliens. As a close friend of Natasha Romanoff's boudoir, she was naturally a little upset when she saw her good friend's boyfriend stepping on a few boats in a fair manner. Although her voice was low, Levi could hear her clearly and couldn't help turning his head to look at her. Hill, who was discovered, had a definite look, and his eyes were full of contempt. In this regard, Levi is not easy to refute. After all, to some extent, he is indeed a scumbag. But, what happened to the scumbag? Why should I be a scumbag? I won't accept you biting me. Thinking of this, Levi gained confidence, and even took a provocative look at Hill. This guy. Seeing the change in Levi's eyes, Hill's original displeasure suddenly turned into anger. Although she was still expressionless, the change in her eyes couldn't be hidden from Levi. Okay, I'll go there first. After 12 hours, just open the portal and pick me up. After saying goodbye to Sky, Levi was ready to enter. He is not worried that there will be 14 problems here. The Decepticons he summoned are all here, and there are sound waves watching. Although the nuclear bomb code can't be obtained, that thing keeps changing, but some other equipment, such as drones and the like, sound waves can still be controlled. So even if there is a problem here, it is still possible to hold out until Levi comes back. After leaving a power in Sky's body to support her next need to open the portal, Levi saw the moment the stone turned into liquid and jumped straight in. Boom. As if the stone fell into the water, Levi, who entered the portal, didn't feel any strange changes. As if he really just jumped into the water, he felt himself sinking for a long time, and then after a while, he appeared in another one end. Call in the dark red sky, a strong wind whizzed out. As soon as Levi appeared here, it was swept by wind and sand. He hurriedly spread divine power all over his body to avoid the consequences of being buried by the wind and sand. If nothing else happens, there are only two living creatures on this planet, the Hive and the NASA astronaut named Will. The Typhon organization has cooperated with NASA a long time ago on a project with the purpose of rescuing the Hive from this planet. However, at that time, their technology was not up to standard, and the people they sent never returned, so they didn't know the situation here at all, which led them to think that this place was some kind of dragon's pool and tiger's lair. After several deaths in a row, NASA basically abandoned the so-called extraterrestrial activities exploration. After all, an astronaut cannot be cultivated just by being trained. After all, the minimum requirements for astronauts are experienced fighter pilots, and there is no country in this world that is rich enough to take the lives of astronauts seriously. Otherwise, why are all countries vigorously developing unmanned driving technology these years? It's not that it's too expensive and difficult to train qualified fighter pilots. That's why I thought about using computers to replace humans to perform flight tasks. Well, let me see, where is the man? With divine protection, the harsh environment of this planet is nothing to Levi. However, for an ordinary person, staying here for a long time will definitely kill him, unless he finds a place where the environment is relatively less harsh. Moreover, he has to ensure that he has water to survive and food to survive. Levi flies high into the sky. As the sun god, flight is naturally not a problem. Although he did not load himself with the priesthood of Lord of the Sky, his flight speed is not slow. In fact, it is exactly the speed of the sun rising in the east and setting in the west. The speed of the Earth's rotation, about 466 meters per second, already supersonic. However, his vision ability is much higher than this. The sun power that Levi exchanged mainly includes the priesthood of light, life, and power. In the priesthood of light, Levi divine power spreads out, and within a range of hundreds of kilometers. As long as there is light, he can be seen by him. So after a while, he found a place that is not too far away from here. Talk about a relatively peaceful area. The wind and sand is very small, but looking at the surrounding landforms, it should be a periodic storm, and there is a lake not far away. There is a breath of life in it. It should be a special kind of edible plant. Levi landed and looked around. The power of life to spread, and all the life began under this land soon appeared in his consciousness. It's here. Levi glanced over and soon discovered a naturally formed 490-degree hole under a huge rock, and there lived the only human being on this planet. Boom. There is no sun on this planet, and the light comes from a red satellite next to it, so the sky is always dark red. In the burrow, the astronaut Will was sleeping, and he arranged the rest time according to his habits, but unexpectedly, something unexpected happened today. The violent sound woke Will up, and he turned over in panic, while sleeping on the folding bed, frantically trying to grab something from his side as a defense. But when he saw the person who entered the cave clearly, the expression on his face surprised, but couldn't restrain it. Oh, Megas, by the way, can't you change the lines? Buy karma every day, and the old man will be annoyed too. Levi looked at everything in the cave. NASA sent a whole team, but the others were killed by the Hive while exploring the planet. Only Will in front of he has been hiding here since he escaped. Okay, boy, I'll take you home, but first, you have to take me to find the bug. Chapter 85 Honeycomb, the first alien created by the Kree. So, you are really a god? Yes, I am. Also, you have asked this question for the 7th time. If you say it again, I promise, you will never be able to speak again. Although Levi knows what kind of shock it is for a living god to appear in the eyes of normal people, especially, the United States is still a theistic society. When the president takes the oath of office, the hand is not the Declaration of Independence, but the Bible. But, as for nagging all the way, yes, you are indeed a god. If not a god, who would save me? Who would give me such power? Will has a frenzy on his face. Levi has never been a person who likes to explain too much. After simply telling this guy his origin and purpose, he took the simplest way to make the astronaut believe in himself. It gave him a little bit of divine power, made him physically fit and energetic, and gave him the feeling of returning to his 18th-year-old peak point. In addition, what he had encountered on this uninhabited planet Tatooine these years, this astronaut who still believed in science, before became a loyal believer of his god. As for God, well, he's been stuck here for so many years, and God hasn't come to save him, so, believe in a chicken god, my lord. That demon is just ahead. There is a large ruins there. My teammates died one after another while exploring this ruins. We thought we could find a way to go back here. Due to Levi charge, Will's footsteps were fast, and Levi divine power blocked the wind and sand, and they soon came to a cliff, and in front of them was the place where the hive was. The ruins of the Hydra Empire on Tatooine. Yes, there was once a kingdom here. The hive is the first inhuman created by the Kree in ancient times. There are also tools used by the Kree to control the entire inhuman race. The ability of the hive can control almost all inhumans. Well, according to the explanation in the TV series, the hive can a hormone is secreted so that aliens cannot leave him after being infected by him. Kind of like being addicted to drugs, and to be near a hive is to be on drugs. Definitely, this is not without a solution. The first way is to kill the hive, but it is very difficult. Its body is a group of tiny bugs. Unless all these bugs are eliminated, he can change his body to parasitize it at any time. And the second kind of law is flogging. Every inhuman is preset, which is also the difference between inhumans and mutants. The ability of mutants is random, and there is no limit to the strong. The strongest mutant, Franklin, can even make a universe out of it. When he was 5 years old, he could pinch a universe and put it in his pocket. So he also came up with the concept of pocket universe. But the strongest inhuman race, that is, Black Bolt King, his full blow is nothing more than destroying the stars. The flogging, however, is set, an alien who is destined to destroy other aliens, including the hive. Lash can even easily eliminate the addictive symptoms caused by the hive to other inhumans, which is the destiny nemesis of the hive. However, the flogging was far from being born when the hive was expelled, so expelling them at that time drove the hive and his followers here together. And after they came here, they established such a hive kingdom. However, after thousands of years passed, because the environment here was too harsh, only the hive survived, and his followers all died. This hive kingdom has thus dissipated. Looking ahead, Levi could also see a huge amounts of signs standing in the middle of the dusty city. That is the logo of Hydra, or rather, the logo of the hive. The original shape of the honeycomb is a shape covered with snake hair, so this is actually his avatar, which was later inherited by Hydra. Give me your hand. Oh, Will reached out obediently. Levi pointed a finger, and a beam of light cut a hole in Will's palm, and blood flowed down immediately. Will originally thought that he suddenly thought of something, so he secretly injured the pain and stopped talking. It turned out that the hive needs parasitism to survive, so he is extremely sensitive to the smell of blood, and Levi is using Will's blood to hang him as a fish. Coming, sure enough, after a while, Levi sensed that there was life approaching in the wind and sand. He waved a wave of life force to heal Will's hand, then moved his body and got into the billowing sand. After a few seconds, he grabbed Will's hand. A mummy in a spacesuit returned to the cliff where they were. Nabs, Will exclaimed when he saw this spacesuit. This is one of the NASA astronauts who came with him back then. Got it, but this is already a corpse parasitized by a hive. Will, the mummy suddenly turned its head. Under the erosion of the wind and sand, the spacesuit was torn, revealing the black and dry body tissue underneath. However, due to the supply of the hive, the body was still able to move, just like a corpse infected by the T-virus. Moreover, the hive it can also absorb the memory of the body it invaded, which is why he can recognize. Will was taken aback, but Levi didn't care. Zombies were much scarier than this. Many of the zombie maquettes were made by him himself, and he was never afraid. But, who are you? However, Levi didn't speak, but the hive asked, and a stream of fine invisible dust scattered from his body and rushed towards Levi. Chapter 86 I'm the true God, the only God. Second update. Are you looking for death? It was the first time that Levi saw such a fool who couldn't figure out himself. Just now, Levi found the location of the hive and grabbed him directly without any reaction from him. Point with this kind of operation. Can't he see that he is an existence that he can't provoke at all? Pushing it out with one hand, Levi was like pushing down a chopstick. A powerful force exploded directly, blasting the withered body of the hive into the air. Boom. A huge amount of gap appeared on the ground. Will looked at the scene in front of him. He didn't know why Levi made a sudden move. With his strength, he couldn't detect the small movements of the hive. However, this does not prevent him from being sincere about it. You disgusting little bug. If it weren't for your usefulness, you would have been wiped out by now. Levi stretched out his hand, and the hive that he blasted out just now flew back to Levi's hand, as if being pulled by some invisible silk thread. What? Bursts of 080 roars came from the mouth of the hive, and opposite to it, there were dots of golden sacred light exuding from Levi's hands. This scene looks very much like a god purifying a demon, at least in Will's eyes. These little bugs, if you don't want them, I can clean them up for you. The light around Levi slowly shone on the area, and occasionally there was a trace of black smoke, and what looked like black smoke to Will was actually the self that spread out from the hive. Point. The hive is a collection of countless small bugs, just like the hive where bees gather together, and his name comes from this, and every bug can spread out as a means of killing and controlling. Point. However, he can use these bugs to devour ordinary people. But if he controls them, he can only control Jingren. Point. It stands to reason that this kind of bug, which is so tiny that it cannot be seen by the naked eye, will not be discovered at all lurking in the air. But to Weasley, Beg, Welly, these small movements of the hive are just a joke to him. Even if he doesn't have the power of the sun, with the dominance of the T-virus in his body, there is only one end for these little bugs to invade. Point. The divine power of the sun slowly roasted the hive's remnant until he had already lost his breath, and when he didn't even have half of the little bugs that made up his true body, Levi let him go. Point. This guy takes good advantage and is a decent knife. Point. In fact, it doesn't matter whether Malik worships him or not. If it doesn't work, just let this guy devour Malik. The mind control method doesn't work, but directly devouring his memory is not something that any mental defense method can resist. And all Levi needs to do is to keep this guy firmly under control. Looking at the beehive that was about to die, Levi kicked him with his toe and watched him roll around on the ground, but couldn't even stand up. Levi just sneered. This is a lesson he has earned. However, when the big sticks are over, I also want to give a sweet date. A gentle life energy is like bubbling spring water, nourishing the body that should have belonged to the former NASA astronaut Nabs. So, in the eyes of Will and the hive, a miracle is happening. That withered body that barely maintained its activities with the power of the hive seemed like a wilderness irrigated by spring rain, and within a moment, it was full of vitality. Point. The dry muscles are being regenerated, the calcium lost bones are being repaired, and this body is rapidly returning to its former vitality and vitality. Point. And the hive as a parasite also seems to be bathed in the spring breeze, feeling extremely comfortable. The number of insect swarms is rapidly recovering, and the power he can control is also increasing sharply. A moment later, when a human man with intact body and as vigorous as Will appeared, both Will and the hive were already in great shock and deep worship. Point. Will bowed his head and expressed his highest respect to Levi, while hive, who was once worshipped as a god by others, fell into unprecedented doubts. So, I've always been a false god. So, are you, Twin, the real god? His feeling at the moment was like a king who ruled tens of thousands of people and owned a county. Suddenly, one day, he discovered that the outside world was incomparably vast, and there were emperors who ruled hundreds of millions of miles of land, millions of troops, with gold and iron horses. If he had absorbed the memory of the people of the Celestial Dynasty, he would know that there was a vocabulary to describe him. Yellow is arrogant. He is the king who asked Yellow Kingdom and Han Dynasty which is bigger, and his behavior of provoking Levi before was out and out arrogance. Seeing the performance of these two guys in front of him, Levi is quite satisfied. This is what he wants, but the wait is not enough. Levi looked to the distance, in front of the cliff, the ancient ruins, the first group of exiled here, the Hydra Kingdom established by the followers of the Hive. I'm the sun, the eternal light, the lord of all creation, and I'm the true god, the only god. Levi's body rose slowly, and a halo of the sun appeared behind him. On this planet without a fixed star, and without a sun, it has been countless billions of years, but today, the sun actually appeared. This is my mighty power. Levi's voice exploded in the ears of Will, and the hive like a torrent of bells, and then, a force as grand and stalwart as the sun burst out from Levi's hands. The holy, great sunlight poured out, and Will and the hive hurriedly looked in the direction of Levi's finger. Second update. Chapter 87. Destroy a city with a wave of your hand. If the changes that happened to him could only be regarded as miraculous, then what happened before his eyes was a real miracle, an ancient relic, bearing the witness of the false god belief of the hive. A huge city covering an area of 10,000 meters away, disappeared. Under the sunlight from Levi, the ruined city below the cliff, like ice and snow, completely melted and vanished in the world, as if they never existed. When Levi fell from the sky, the hive was already kneeling on the ground. He knelt there respectfully, with his hands on the ground, his forehead resting on the back of his hands, which was the greatest respect. He really felt the gap between himself and Levi's strength. It was a gap that he could not swallow, no matter how many lives he swallowed. Let's go back, Levi said lightly. He didn't show any difference, because of the feat he had done, but just moved forward. On Earth, Sky and others, who have been staring at the alarm clock, have wary eyes, are now in a war, and the war with Hydra cannot be careless. Time is up. Hill brought someone to appear suddenly. Sky glanced at Time, and then nodded. Fire the flare first. According to Levi instructions, everyone was on standby. Taking advantage of the moment, when the stone turned into liquid, a flare gun fired a shot at the pool of liquid, and then the liquid returned to stone. After waiting for another minute, Sky came to the front of the giant pit, stretched out his arm, and on his white arm, a powerful force spread to the teleportation stone. Then all of a sudden, according to its own law, the portal that was a stone for a while, and then a liquid turned into a large puddle of liquid, and it has been maintaining this state. How long can you last? Hill asked with concern. She could see that Sky was struggling. For about 10 minutes, the strength he left me can only last so long. After all, it is a genetic defect, and the power of aliens is accompanied by relatively serious side effects. If Sky does not have Levi's divine power to maintain, and she uses this power by herself, she may end up shattering herself first. But Hill didn't have time to worry, because, with the opening of the portal, after only tens of seconds, Levi Kang flew out of the black liquid portal. What? Sky withdrew ability, and greeted Levi with a face of joy. He wanted to give Levi a hug, but saw two people in his hands, so he could only stand there, and look at him with a small aggrieved face. Levi quickly threw the two guys in his hands aside, and then, regardless of the eyes of so many agents around him, he stepped forward, and hugged Sky into his arms, and sprinkled a wave of dog food to the people around him openly. Humph. Looking at Levi's provocative eyes, Hill was a little breathless, but she could tell the difference, and her emotions would never affect her work. Take them down. Under Levi nod, the hive silently followed the agents of the Cheyenne Bureau down. How is Malik finding a position? He is now the only breakthrough. On the bright side, even if it will cause a backlash, I will go to him. After calming Sky, Levi looked at Hill. Although the latter had some small emotions in his heart, there was no problem in doing things, and he quickly reported Malik's location to him. Okay, arrange a flight for me, sooner rather than later. I'll go find him right away. At night, Levi boarded the plane with the hive, and they were going to Europe. The headquarters of the Typhon organization is in Europe. In fact, the roots of many large consortia in the world are almost here. Although the countries in Europe are no longer viable, and the center of the world is gradually turning to America and Asia, it has to be said that after 2 world wars, a large number of warmongers who grew up drinking human blood have been bred here, asking for flowers. From oil to munitions, from medicine to real estate, they started their fortunes during the war, and entered the market with huge sums of money during post-war reconstruction, reaping wealth wantonly. And the Typhon organization is undoubtedly the most outstanding one among them. It took off at night, and it was already late at night when it arrived in Europe, but Levi and the hive are not ordinary people, and they don't need to rest. According to the information from Hill, Levi flew directly from the airport with the hive to a certain manor on a certain European road among. By the way, why do these people like to live in ancient castles? Do you like to live in this kind of place? It's gloomy, decadent, let alone artistic, and it doesn't meet the normal needs of human beings. It was used as a war fortress in ancient times, not for living. Levi looked at the castle in front of him, complained, and found Malik's room quietly. Boom. Kicking in the door directly, Levi didn't talk nonsense. After lighting up the room, he confirmed that the old man who woke up on the bed was Malik. He knocked the guy unconscious and motioned to the hive. Go, upper body, it's better to be more serious like this, and then chat and negotiate with him or something. I can bear it, and the readers can't bear it. The beehive, which has long been surrendered by Levi, naturally has no objection. Changing his body is like changing a car for him. Then, right next to Levi, the original Naboo's astronaut turned into dust and disappeared. His body completely turned into the nutrition of the hive and was devoured. Then, countless small bugs invisible to the naked eye, like a swarm of bees, rushed towards Malik who was sleeping on the bed. Chapter 88. Do you need bells and whistles? I'm the sun god. 4 more. Is this the information you got from Malik about Pierce? When Levi dialed Hill's phone and gave Malik, or the information, that the hive told him, the expression of the deputy director of the Heavenly Sword Bureau can be said to be wonderful. Yeah, I didn't think of it either, but after thinking about it, it seems possible. After all, it's really unrealistic for an aircraft carrier to float on the sea all the time. Even if it's cruising, there are supply ships. Thousands of the problem of eating, drinking and laxation of the crew of number 1 cannot depend on fishing. What are you going to do? Hill weighed it up and finally asked. As an intelligence officer, she doesn't really believe that Levi got the May 13th information, but Levi also believes that the hive didn't lie, or that he didn't dare to lie. Then, after the hive devoured Malik, he obtained all of Malik's memories. If this position is not correct, it only shows one thing: the news Malik got is also false. But this is obviously unlikely because the backup that Pierce relies on is Malik. Whether it's political support or logistical support, Pierce has to rely on the Typhon organization. Do we have any other options? Nick Fury probably can't wait, so I'm definitely going to go straight to the dragon. And, with my strength, do I need to play those fancy things with them? I'm the sun god, Levi said half truthfully, but Hill didn't seem to care about his last words. She just nodded and then didn't say a word. After all, she also thinks this is the easiest, but also the most effective way. At the end of the call, Levi explained to the hive and was about to leave. If Typhon organizes it, he doesn't intend to discard it directly. This organization will definitely be affected after the collapse of Pierce, but the problem is that a lean camel is bigger than a horse, and its size cannot be measured by numbers. Even if it is divided and shrunk, the remaining wealth will be difficult imagination. If this wealth can be obtained, Levi is still ready to take it. He is going to open his own movie theater. And it's not one company, but a global chain, and this requires a lot of funds. So he really can't lack the funds of the Typhon organization. As for the loyalty of the hive, although this guy couldn't use mind control to limit him, Levi believed that his own strength had left a deep enough impression on this guy. But just to be on the safe side, he still left some things behind. Although small, confusion can play a good role in the existence of beehives that are full of biological attacks. The key is that confusion can contact the sound waves far above the 9 heavens at any time. So if the hive does something, basically Levi can know. After leaving Europe, Levi headed west all the way. He just came from the west coast of the United States and flew back again, but this time, he went farther. After reuniting with the Decepticons at the base on the west coast, the group boarded the transport plane directly. According to Malik's memory, Pierce is now on the westernmost land of the United States, Alaska. The coordinates are in a military port of the Miami. We all thought that he was floating on the sea, but we didn't expect that he chose to hide under our noses. Whether it is SHIELD or Sonic, they have never relaxed the monitoring of the Miami, but they never thought that instead of fleeing, Pierce has been hiding in the military port. Yeah, where is a warship least conspicuous? Definitely is in port. However, your time of death has come after all. The World's most advanced heavy-duty transport plane loaded with Decepticons came to the sky over the Alaska military port. Before Levi's eyes, there was a scene of sound waves being transmitted. Everything below is in his eyes, and Pierce, the aircraft carrier they had been looking for a long time, was moored there quietly. Attack. Levi gave a loud shout, then opened the hatch, and jumped down first, while the rest of the Decepticons, except for the dizziness and the shifting mode of the surfboard, is a helicopter, so they have been flying below. The rest of the people have hung up the parachute, ready start trading. Whoosh, boom, the surfboard took the lead in attacking. The huge amounts of power Hawk helicopter flew over the military port, and several rockets flew out of his magazine, heading towards the Hydra aircraft carrier. Enemy. Attack. The air defense siren was sounded. However, Vertigo had already arrived. His shifting form was the same as a surfboard, but the combat methods of the two were very different. With a loud bang, a powerful electromagnetic pulse burst out, destroying all the electronic equipment of the surrounding US military point. Then, waving the meteor hammer that the propeller turned into, Dizzy 4.3 Dizzy, like a fierce general, started to run wildly on the deck of the aircraft carrier. He found us inside the aircraft carrier. Pierce looked at the blacked out screen and was shocked. No, fight back, kill them. Pierce roared out. Originally, he was the high-ranking minister of the World Security Council and the immediate boss of Nick Fury. He was above tens of thousands of people. He also controlled a part of Hydra secretly, with monstrous power. But now, he has to hide in the bitter cold of Alaska, expecting others to save him. It's just that he is like this, but there are still people who refuse to let him go. Chapter 89. I said, let there be light. Fifth watch. In fact, there is no need for Pierce to say that the people on the aircraft carrier, even the US military and the nearby military port, started to attack the stun too. All kinds of anti-aircraft missiles and machine guns aimed at the two of them immediately after the panic. Even though the electromagnetic pulse caused many devices to fail, such a close target can be hit even with the eyes. However, as soon as the first round of shells was launched, they heard roars in the sky. Before Noisy, Bonabreaker and the others had landed completely, they had already broken free from the parachute, completely shifting in the air, and then launched themselves out laughing wildly. Evil cannonballs. A lot of enemies. A dozen Decepticons all landed. As war machines, they have really become the masters of war at this moment. Even if this is the most powerful US military in the world, it is a bit vulnerable in front of them. 14. Take off. Take off. On the other side of the aircraft carrier, several fighter jets were preparing to take off, but Levi didn't care about it, and just waved his hand. During the flashes of brilliance, a silver F-22 flew out of the air. Starscream, control this sky for me. 50 million points, exchanged for a second in command. Starscream, one of the future leaders of the Decepticons, is not a loss, because with it, Levi has the final say on this sky. Alaska is one of the most important air bases of the US military. The most famous point here is that 8 squadrons of F-22 Raptor fighter jets are deployed here, and this fighter is currently the most advanced 5th generation stealth fighter in the world. To put it bluntly, with the F-22s of these 8 squadrons alone, the United States can walk sideways throughout Southeast Asia, because they have the final say in the sky. However, with Starscream around, Levi doesn't have to worry about this problem. Although Starscream is famous because of a woozy, in almost every animation of shifting King Kong, he has to betray Megatron once. However, to be able to become the second in command of the Decepticons, and to be able to sit firmly as the leader of the Decepticons, when Megatron is not around, he is naturally not completely powerless. What's more, among other things, he can tell the difference, just because of his higher redemption points than others. Definitely, Levi naturally won't just watch his subordinates show off. After seeing Starscream fly into the sky according to his instructions, and start to clean up those who are in the way, Levi directly swept across the battlefield, and smashed towards the aircraft carrier like a meteorite, the only protrusion on the deck. Bridge. Boom. Surrounded by powerful divine power, Levi seemed to have a body of steel, and directly smashed a huge amount of gap in the bridge. Pierce, Ziope, Pippy Shrimp, where are you? When the flames dissipated, Levi smiled and walked into the bridge through the gap he made. As soon as he entered it, he saw a group of very familiar guys. Fire. The energy guns emitted dazzling energy beams, and each energy bullet could destroy a steel chariot. However, this attack on a person seemed to be bought fake. The invisible light curtain floated in front of him, and the blue energy beam shot out constantly, but once it touched the invisible barrier in front of Levi, it would be like a stone thrown into the water, causing ripples and a burst of brilliance, and then disappeared in the invisible. This is the benefit of divine power. If Levi had exchanged Kryptonian blood, then he might not even have a problem subduing the hive. But facing the current situation, he can only rely on his body to resist. I say, let there be light. Levi spread his hands, looked at the Hydra soldier who had finished shooting around, and said with a smile. Afterwards, countless streaks of colorful sunlight shot forward from his body, and the condensed sunlight moved forward bravely with blazing heat and high energy. While the soldiers of Hydra wanted to avoid it, so pity, how did they run past the light? Even the screams could not be heard. Under such fierce sunlight, all the people were reduced to ashes in just a moment. The air was clean and dust-free, and there was no smell of barbecue, because even protein molecules are directly decomposed by high temperature. This is called purification. After using this trick on Tatooine, Levi found himself kind of liking it. What an indecent thing to smash, chop and burn. If it wasn't for the blood stinging, or the stench was unpleasant, the mummy would be in pain. Even if it was placed there. Purification is much more comfortable, directly erasing the enemy without leaving a trace. Too close to the sun, but it will melt. With a smile as warm as the sun, Levi stepped forward, and he could already feel Pierce's breath. Turn right corner, go 5 steps forward, then turn another corner. Overhead, there were bursts of explosions, and this huge amount of aircraft carrier became a battleground between the Decepticons and the US military. However, the US military, which is very capable of dealing with humans, may not be so smooth against the Decepticons. Button. Levi knocked on the door, then pushed it open and walked in. Pierce, how are you doing? How are you doing? Levi looked at Pierce, who was sitting in his room, and put on a haggard face, with a sunny smile on his face, and said kindly, it's like an old friend I haven't seen for a long time. You are finally here. I thought I could live for a few more days. Seeing Levi's appearance, Pierce actually let out a look of relief, which shows how much psychological pressure he has ever since Hydra was exposed. He started to run away, and he never had a good rest. He was always worried that the Heavenly Sword Bureau would come. Now that Levi really came, it might be a relief for him. Chapter 91 Foot smashed a military port. One more. Levi's breezy smile didn't make Pierce any more comfortable, but he was finally relieved. This old man, who was over 60 years old, after seeing his doom clearly, immediately sat on the bed, stretched out his right hand, but stopped halfway, and then looked at Levi. You do not mind? Levi looked over, and there was a half-drunk bottle of whiskey on the table by the window. Anything is fine. The smile on Levi's face became brighter, and Pierce's trembling hand suddenly became stronger. He grabbed the wine bottle, poured a little into his glass, and took the glass to May. Gudang. Swallowing the wine in one gulp seemed to reassure Pierce even more. Levi chuckled. This wine is highly poisonous. Do you think you don't know? Thank you. You can satisfy a little request from an old man like me. Oh, no, I didn't satisfy you. Levi shook his head, and in the next second Pierce's eyes popped out. His face turned blue, and the highly toxic cyanide was destroying his body wantonly. But, as Levi's hand stretched out, it pressed on the top of Pierce's head. A warm energy injected into the body of this guy who wanted to die. I'm sorry, I prefer saving people to kill them. Gentle life energy quickly repaired the damage in Pierce's body. The poison was constantly destroying, while he was constantly repairing. This was also an unbearable torture. Pierce screamed and howled involuntarily. This state lasted for a long time, until the toxic substances in his body were finally exhausted and decomposed. You devil. I'm a devil? Well, it doesn't matter. It seems good to be the devil of the wicked, although he didn't exchange the function of punishment. Levi actually did a good thing of punishing evil and promoting good, which somewhat surprised him. However, Pierce still seemed unconvinced or reconciled. He didn't want to be captured, but he wanted to die but couldn't, which made him very uncomfortable. After all, if he dies, everything behind him, his nephews, the rest of Hydra will look after him. However, he was captured, so if any follow-up actions against the rest of the smugglers occur, they will find his people. Do you think you can get out of here easily? Starrick is nearby. He holds the greatest power in Hydra, and what you have done to Alaska, it's all been recorded and sent back to Washington and war against the US military. Do you think this will end like this? Levi, who was about to go out, heard Pierce's last voice of despair and gave him a slight sideways look. I didn't expect you to be quite smart. I said, why did you hide here and come up with this idea? But, do you really think that the US military will dare to provoke me? Ants dare to provoke elephants, but what about dragon facings? Caught Pierce out of the room, and then threw it to the barricade of the guards outside. Levi swept around. The aircraft carrier had been emptied, and fighter planes fell from the sky from time to time. Generally speaking, the Decepticons have completely crushed the US military's combat situation point. But this is not enough. This is just the physique of an elephant. Pierce can be safe and sound under the wings of the US military, or drag himself into the water, and Levi was going to tell him that he was wrong. Everyone, evacuate this aircraft carrier. Let me show the world my strength. Decepticons are forbidden, and they are the most effective fighters in front of Levi, who has absolute command. The barricade grabbed Pierce, stuffed it into his body, transformed himself and rushed down the deck, and arrived at the port. The rest of the Decepticons also left. Except for the Sky, Starscream continued to exercise the right to dominate the air, and the rest waited. All gone within a minute. What is he going to do? Far away from the port, Baron Strucker hurriedly led his Hydra soldiers, and had already lined up. However, before they joined the battle, they discovered that the enemy had started to withdraw point on the aircraft carrier. There is only one person left. Point. The sun is light, life, and power. Levi looked to the east, where the rising fiery red sun is showing its power to the world point, and on this Nimitz-class aircraft carrier in the port. Likewise, a round of golden sun is slowly rising, illuminating the world. Oh, mega, ouchette. If the shapper-shifting King Kong is already a complete shock, an opponent that the US military here has never faced before, then what appears before their eyes is a complete miracle. That is a god, sun god. In the next second, the golden crow fell, and the flames burned the sky. The endless light turned into a substantial force, and it fell heavily, just like the real King Kong's sunset in the east. The huge and incomparable Nimitz aircraft carrier, the monster that can be called an island on the sea, the artifact of war created by human beings, seemed to be turned into paper at Levi's feet, and was crushed in an instant. Yes, the giant ship made of steel was trampled to pieces. Levi stepped down and hit the middle of the aircraft carrier. Then, a terrible force erupted, and the giant ship was tilted up like chopsticks broken from the middle. At the same time, cracks spread rapidly from the middle break, reaching a thickness the steel that is several feet or even several meters is as fragile as a wafer. Boom. The reactor exploded, and the engine and the reactor were naturally and inevitably detonated after suffering such heavy damage, and the consequences of the explosion of a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 91. This man, what shall we use against him? Second update. This is the last picture we received. In the Pentagon, a group of high-level generals of the US military sat around and watched the video. From the moment when Levi turned into the sun and fell into the world, crushing the Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, that the US military is rampant around the world, to the end when the entire aircraft carrier was killed and the reactor turned into a nuclear bomb, was silent. They are everyone the commanders of the most powerful army in the world. However, in the face of their source of confidence, their arrogance, and their self-confidence, they are being teased and trampled wantonly in front of them. An indescribable feeling point in this situation. It was as if they had seen their goddess being teased and trampled on the soles of their feet by other men. One word, green. They all seemed to be green at the moment, with the green grassland above their heads, and thousands of grass and mud horses galloping on it, laughing at them. We want to apply to Congress for war. Or, 627, do you have other ideas? The Minister of Defense glanced at everyone present. Logically speaking, they have no reason to go to war, because Levi is helping them to eradicate Hydra. There are Hydra people present here, but not all of them, and many of them are neutral or just. The problem is, although Levi helped them capture Pierce, and killed Strucker and other Hydra personnel, he destroyed a US military port, and took the initiative to sink an Nimitz-class aircraft carrier billions of dollars, and the maintenance cost is an astronomical figure. More importantly, Levi didn't just sink an aircraft carrier. The explosion of the aircraft carrier caused the reactor to explode, and the entire port was ignited. And Alaska has always been an important defensive area for the US military. It is the closest place to Asia except Hawaii. In fact, compared to Hawaii, Alaska is closer to Mayozi, the former #1 enemy of the United States. During the Cold War, the US military displayed heavy troops here. Who are the 8 squadrons of F-22 prepared for? But in this battle, Levi Decepticon Legion killed more than an entire fleet with a crushing advantage. Starscream alone solved a flight squadron, and Levi Kick-It was the entire port in Alaska that was crushed. We can't go to war, General. For now, we don't have the ability to defeat him. This sun god, I think he deserves this title. He is not a country, he is an individual, and he can appear at any time there. It can also appear here at any time. Our most effective way to intercept is our Air Force. However, as you can see, our F-22, the most advanced 5th generation fighter in the world, is nothing more than it's just a toy. That is to say, if he wants to come to Washington and the Pentagon, we don't have any ability to stop him. A young military staff officer analyzed. This is the frightening thing about personal power, especially. Levi is not a personal power, he has an army under his hands. He has a Decepticon army. Like this staffer said, what can they do if Levi is coming to Washington, DC next minute? Even if his Bieber radar finds him, even if their satellite locks onto him, can they stop him? Missile, that is a person. Which country's missiles can hit a target as big as a person? At present, the most advanced missiles in the world can only lock the attack range within 50 meters, and if Levi flies in the air, its cross-sectional area is less than 2 square meters, and any missile's fire control radar cannot lock it. And with the strength Levi showed, just his kick, according to their computer calculations, the pressure on Levi kick is almost equivalent to receiving a nuclear bomb head-on. The 90,000-ton aircraft carrier was crushed by 1 foot, and the reaction force was calculated on the file size of Levi body. There is no problem at all with standing the nuclear bomb head-on. A nuclear bomb can't kill you. Who can resist it? Among the conventional weapons, the aircraft carrier is the most powerful, and the strength of the aircraft carrier comes from the carrier-based aircraft on it. Among the non-conventional weapons, the most powerful is the nuclear bomb. But right now, neither of those things are working for Levi. Then how to fight? So, what's your suggestion? The Minister of Defense looked at the staff officer. Compromise. He's not our enemy, and even if he were, we could compromise. We compromised, didn't we, Magneto? Professor X, it's no shame, gentlemen, we just have to see him as just another Magneto. In fact, according to the threat assessment of the Heavenly Sword Bureau, this man, his threat level has long been assessed as the highest level 10. Nick Fury has been in the rivers and lakes for so many years, so it is naturally impossible to have no allies. Before Hydra launched a full-scale effort to make a comeback, no one in the entire Pentagon could speak, and the Capitol and the White House were caught in political struggles. But now, with Pierce captured, and Strucker killed in the explosion at the port, Hydra is already cold, and Nick Fury's allies naturally stand up. That's it. This one, the Sun God. I hope he won't be our enemy. God bless America. The statement made by the Minister of Defense can be regarded as a qualitative statement, but at that time, a general came in front of the Minister of Defense. Sir, I have an idea. Chapter 92 Chain Reaction. Super Soldier Project, Iron Armor. Third watch. In the office of the Minister of Defense, Minister Kate sat on a chair and looked straight ahead. General Ross, please speak. General Thaddeus Ross is 47 years old this year, but among the US military, he is already considered a young and strong faction. He straightened his clothes, then looked at the Minister of Defense. Sir, I know that we have to compromise and have to bow our heads to this person, but if this continues, will America still exist? Ross said in a deep voice, and Minister Kate's complexion became heavy when he heard this. Why doesn't he know about this problem? As the commanders of the army, as soldiers who are supposed to defend their homes and the country, they have compromised. They can't say no to others. Even failure to protect their own people is dereliction of duty, and for soldiers, it is the greatest disgrace. But what can we do, Ross? We have repeatedly away, sir. I suggest restart the Super Soldier program immediately, sir. Now is the best time. We compromised with Magneto. We compromised with Professor X, but that is a legacy of history. And now, we appear there are new threats. We need a new kind of power. If aircraft carriers, fighter jets or even nuclear weapons don't work, then use people to solve the problem. The Super Soldier Project? You mean, the Captain of the United States? He's just a soldier who can run faster and jump higher. Minister Kate was a little bored. In his opinion, even 100 Steve Luogis would not be able to defeat Gwen's terrifying existence. No, sir, that was 70 years ago. 70 years ago we could only make soldiers who could run faster and jump higher, but now, we have better technology and equipment. Think about it, 70 years, how many times have our aircraft carriers, our missiles, our aircraft been replaced? Technology is changing, sir. The Minister of Defense's eyes brightened slightly. Ross was right. It's not 70 years ago now. They may not be able to produce more powerful soldiers. Okay, Ross, I will leave this matter to you. I will apply to Congress for funds. You will have privileges in this matter. I hope you will not let us down. The military, or the domestic reaction of the United States, Levi didn't care much about it. After Pierce was captured, first of all, Nick Fury was released. Because Pierce fell, his allies naturally knew that the matter was dust. When the curtain ends, I will be implicated. Now I'm thinking about how to run away. I don't know if I will be implicated. Now I have to be honest for a while, hoping to avoid the limelight point. Moreover, the Tiffin organization stopped exerting pressure, and the people who targeted Nick Fury relaxed, so he came out. But you can no longer sit in this position. Listen to me, go to politics. Next year is the election year, and if it goes well, you will be able to live in the White House the year after next. Black people live in the White House, brother. This will be recorded in history. Hill became the new director of Cheyenne Bureau. SHIELD has completely become a thing of the past, and Cheyenne Bureau will continue to carry out the mission of killing Hydra around the world. This is their most important, or the only task at present. And it's not difficult. Pierce is captured. He will speak sooner or later, and the information provided by the Hive makes Hydra nowhere to hide. For Levi, outside of encouraging Nick Fury to enter politics, he is back in his own life. Shoot a movie, mess around with a few girls. But he didn't get away with it for long, because an annoying guy came to him. Look, this is my new invention. It's an improvement to be precise. My father's arc reactor, I improved it, based on Jazz's fire source, and now, I also have a fire source. Levi fixed his eyes on the big light bulb on Tony's chest, scrutinized it, and decided, asking for flowers, that's the little arc reactor that was supposed to come out 2 years later. Well, not bad. Levi nodded. Then a few days later, this person came again. Look, this is my new invention. I have been researching Cybertron's technology. In fact, the most important thing is the shape shifting technology. Then I found that they don't have a fixed shape at all. There are only two things that restrain them: energy and program. Tony shook the suitcase in his hand, and then the black suitcase began to change, like some kind of evil substance climbing rocks on Tony's body, and gradually, this layer of substance covered Tony's whole body, completing the final shape shifting. A black armor appeared on Tony's body, but this time Levi was a little surprised when he saw it. because the style of this set of armor is far from the style of the armor that Tony should have. He looks more like a shaper-shifting King Kong, but there are no wheels on his body. This reminds Levi of a shaper-shifting King Kong anime I watched a long time ago, in which there is a small shaper-shifting King Kong, mini King Kong. They can become this kind of armor and wear it on people. It seems that the color is a bit light and doesn't match your personality. Did you forget to color it? Levi said tentatively. So, the next day, the suggestion you gave last time was great. Look, with gold as the base tone and red paint. Ah, perfect. This is my perfect work. Looking at the gold and red Mark's classic armor in front of him, Levi nodded. Wow, not bad. Brothers, don't raise it. I'm flustered after reading it, and the rhythm will be accelerated later. Woo woo woo. Chapter 93. The Steel Battle Armor born ahead of time. Troubles come one after another. Levi wasn't surprised that Tony made the armor ahead of time. Inventing things. The first thing is technology, followed by creativity. This is not the era 100 years ago when making a light bulb only needed to experiment with countless materials to succeed. Modern science is advancing by leaps and bounds. Reaching today, if you want new products, you must have a breakthrough in new technology. For example, all kinds of cross-age electronic devices were born only after the great progress of electronic components. From BB machine to smartphone, has the span of the two been a long time, but only a few decades. However, if you take the idea of a smartphone back to the age of BB machines, is it useful? Everyone knows that smartphones make money in 203, but your technology can only make BB machines. And Levi provided Tony with technology. Cybertron's technology is good enough and leading enough. In fact, according to the setting of shaper-shifting King Kong, Botan's technology has already reached the pinnacle of the universe point. Although it doesn't look very good in the movie, all the planes and cars that exist on the Earth have changed. Even the artillery is no different from the cannons on the Earth. No matter how fierce the shaper-shifting King Kong is, it can be injured by the weapons on the Earth point. But, don't forget, Cybertron has already begun to study space-time technology point, becoming the Skyfire of the number 2 high school and the natural enemy of the number 3 high school. The space teleportation technology they use is not magic, but genuine technology point, and this kind of technology, even in the Marvel world, hardly exists. Thanos is known as the overlord of the universe, and he has to rely on spaceships to move his army. If he wants to open the portal, he has to rely on the cosmic cube instead of making a portal himself. But the portal to protect against natural enemies, the portal that is big enough to teleport Cybertron, was invented and manufactured by himself. Levi had foreseen this day when Jazz followed Tony at Levi orders by studying Cybertron's technology, such as the special energy structure of fire. He can make the arc reactor technology that he only made a breakthrough in the cave in the future miniaturized in advance. For another example, studying the Jazz's shaper-shifting process and principle can make Tony's research in the field of mechanical engineering advance by leaps and bounds, and even lead the entire Earth. What is the purpose of your armor? Is it just to show off to me? At dinner, all of Levi big family, plus Tony and his caring little secretary Pepper, sat around the table and enjoyed the sumptuous dinner prepared by the 10 chefs in Levi family. And Levi is an authentic Chinese person, and it is his habit to talk about things at the dinner table. So he asked a very crucial question. Your battle armor is very good. According to your design, it actually has more power than imagined. Have you tested its flight speed? Even if it is only 1 Mach, it has the potential to change the air situation. This is a weapon, a very powerful weapon. Have you thought about its future? Originally, showing off his success, Tony, who was refreshed, suddenly froze. To be honest, he didn't think about this problem when he made this armor. He is not the Tony Stark who has experienced life and death and struggled back from the brink of death. He made the armor this time purely out of his own temporary interests and hobbies. Moreover, as Levi said, even if it is a hobby, but unless he never uses this armor again, otherwise, once this armor appears in the eyes of the public, it will bring him huge amounts of trouble point, because it is too strong point. As Levi said, even if this set of armor only has a speed of Mach 1, it is enough to change the open space pattern point. A fighter jet is not just someone who can fly fast. There are many indicators to measure the performance of fighter jets. Speed is just one of them, and speed is not only flight speed, but also machine variable speed. As far as F-22 is concerned, its flight speed may exceed this armor, but it is almost crushed in terms of flexibility, that is, the ability to change. This means that F-22 wants to win this armor. There is only one possibility. During quick maneuvers at long distances, tackle it with air-to-air bucket rounds. But there is a problem, that is, when the fans can't scan. It's the same reason why the radar can't scan Levi. The ground reconnaissance radar is nothing more than a big guy, but how to scan the fire control radar on a fighter jet that is constantly maneuvering and has a cross-sectional area of less than 1 square meter people? There's another term for this. It's called invisibility. The so-called stealth fighter does not mean optical invisibility, but invisibility on radar. In order to achieve a goal, all stealth fighters work hard on 2 aspects. One is the coating. The surface coating of the aircraft can absorb radar waves and prevent them from bouncing back. This fight is about material science. The second is the cross-sectional area. Therefore, the current stealth fighter 2.8 would rather sacrifice the ammunition depot and the fuel depot, and also reduce its own volume, in order to reduce its cross-sectional area. But, no matter how small it is, can it be compared with a person? That's why Levi said that Tony's battle armor will change the air combat pattern, a flight equipment that can crush any fighter in the world, which means absolute air supremacy. It goes without saying what absolute air supremacy means. What did Britain and France look like when they were bombed by the head of state during World War II? Frying for a while, after eating in the morning, frying for a while, after eating at noon, and frying for a while, after eating in the evening. The entire Allied army will have no rear. If it weren't for the United States frantically transporting supplies, they would have been unable to withstand it. Chapter 94 The Dark Knight, Batman. Fifth watch. Are you going to sell? Levi saw that Tony was silent, and changed the question again. This guy probably hasn't figured it out yet. In the original trajectory, he first witnessed the killing caused by the weapon he invented, and even killed himself. Then, he saw the consequences of the war. Yes, he died in front of him. For this series of reasons, he became an anti-war, so he absolutely shut down the weapons department, and became Iron Man. But now, he is still an arms dealer, a firm arms dealer. Sell. No, it's not going to sell. Like you said, it's too powerful. It's going to change a lot of things. I don't want WW3 to break out. Yes, the appearance of this thing is equivalent to the explosion of the first atomic bomb. Having absolute air supremacy in a conventional war means a certain victory. Sell is impossible to sell, but didn't he say it? And that's what Levi kept mentioning to him at 14. That is, if he doesn't want to keep this flamboyant and coquettish armor in his garage as a collection, then he must think about the blame he will receive once the armor is released. The government of the United States cannot tolerate the possession of weapons that can change the tide of battle in private hands. Most people think so. If you don't give it to me, is it going to be given to someone else? They will think, Tony is an arms dealer. You suddenly stopped selling weapons. Why is that? There is only one possibility, and that is that you have already sold to someone else. No. Then you sell me the battle armor. This is useless to explain. Tony will either turn against the United States and go to another country, but the result will still have to be handed over to his armor, or he'd hand over the armor to the United States. Besides that, there is no third option possible. If you keep the battle armor in your hands and don't hand it over, then there will be no room for Tony on the entire Earth. So in the original book, Tony handed Mark II to Colonel Rhodes and gave him permission to modify it into a war machine. This is the compromise he made. Otherwise, Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. in their heyday would not be able to keep him. Tony fell into deep thought. Before, he was only immersed in the joy of making the armor and completing the work, and he didn't have any other thoughts. Now, it can be said that he is full of trouble. But Levi saw that the cooking time was almost ready, and he no longer hid his small thoughts. Anyway, he had almost eaten, so he went directly to his garage studio with a torch. This is where he edited the movie, but today's focus is not on this, but on a car. The pure black car has only one feeling at first glance, domineering sideways. The wider body and flatter structure than ordinary cars make this car more stable at high speeds. The wide wheels and the slightly exaggerated hubs ensure that the normal driving ability of the car will not cause problems due to foreign objects around it. Tony even saw at a glance that the tire was a special solid tire to prevent it from being blown out. Although he didn't look at the rest, such as the loading system inside the car, Tony could already tell that this car was made for fighting. "So, you brought me here to see a car?" Hearing Tony's words, Levi, who was preparing something in front of stage F, turned to look at him. "No, definitely not. How can I be so boring? This is what I want to show you." Levi handed him a small coin-point solid black metal flying dart batarang. "But, wow, you made this yourself? It looks quite exquisite. Why, are you going to sell handicrafts again? I can contact you to hold an exhibition for you." Looking at the flying darts in his hand, or rather, a little bat with its ears pricked up, Tony said poorly. He didn't understand what the flying darts meant. However, Levi knows very well that this flying darts is the father and savior of DC Comics. The meaning of this flying darts is equivalent to Marvel's Spider-Web. If it weren't for these two characters, these two comic companies that influenced the world would have closed down. It was with the help of these two characters that they survived the difficult times several times and finally ushered in their own dawn in the 21st century. Tony, the next thing I want to tell you about 080 is a person who has the same super ability as you. You have too much in common, but you are the same on the outside. But he has another layer of identity behind the scenes. The Dark Knight, Batman. This is destined to be a far-reaching name. Compared with social influence, 10 Iron Man are not as good as one Batman. Even under Robert Jr.'s wonderful performance, the role of Iron Man became popular and reached the pinnacle of his life, but Batman's influence is still greater than him. And the point is, tragedy. When I was young, my parents were murdered in front of my face. Although I left behind hundreds of millions of assets, the unaccompanied Bruce Wayne, even though he lived in a mansion covering thousands of hectares, still felt deeply sad, loneliness and fear. So, he began to escape. He began to be exiled. He searched for the answer to everything. He suffered a lot. He went through hardships. And finally, he returned to Gotham, back to the place where it all started. He chose in order to plunge into the darkness and become a Dark Knight. It is not for justice, but just to find a little comfort for myself. Chapter 95. Tony with a big shit. Want to play Batman? In Levi Garage, Tony, Natasha Romanoff and others are like a group of good babies squatting in front of Levi, listening to his stories about Batman and Bruce Wayne. That level of earnestness is probably comparable to when they were listening to fairy tales in kindergarten. Well, you say. Natasha Romanoff raised her arms high, like a studious student. Levi nodded before she spoke. Well, as the world's richest man, Bruce's wealth is incomparable to that of a country, and half of the people in Gotham City work directly or indirectly for his family. Then, why doesn't he improve Gotham's environment through obvious means? The power of a knight is limited after all. If he supports a group of congressmen, supports a promising police chief, and assists the police in maintaining law and order, the effect may be more useful than a mere Batman, isn't it? Levi nodded with a smile. As a former official, Natasha Romanoff worked in secret, but after all, the organization is an organization on the bright side. So it's not surprising that she would use this kind of thinking when thinking about problems. It's not that he didn't want to, but that he tried, but failed. This incident actually had a big impact on him, and it also involved a person who had a deep bond with him, his ultimate enemy, Joker. Hasn't Bruce tried the obvious means? Don't you want to be the Dark Knight? No, he thought. He did. In order to support the young and promising prosecutor, Harvey Dent, who hates evil, he even gave up competing with him for Rachel, and gave up his beloved childhood sweetheart. However, the appearance of Joker ruined everything. Joker ruined Harvey, ruined the only chance for Gotham City to change, and Joker ruined even more, the last chance for the Dark Knight to become the Light Knight. If it were me, I would definitely kill that guy directly. Tony shrugged. For him, Joker is not a problem, because he will shoot without hesitation. That's Why Joker won't care about you, and he won't be so scheming when dealing with you. You will probably be irritated by him, and then step into the trap you set up, and then self-destruct. Even Superman is played by Joker. There is a reason for this character to occupy the throne of the villain all the year round. His wisdom is different from that of ordinary people, but it is undoubtedly useful. The Justice League was defeated by him alone. Not only did the members fall apart before, but they even started their own civil war. This skill is even better than Zemo. Zemo started the Civil War in the Avengers Alliance, relying on the unmanageable conflict between Bucky and Tony. Bucky is the captain's weakness, and Tony's weakness is his guilt towards his parents. But Joker doesn't even have to do that to drive the duo crazy. Call it what you want. I think I'm better than Bruce Wayne. You see, the same billionaire, but I earned my assets. He relied on inheritance. And he needs support. He needs a butler. Well, I also have a butler. He has Afu. I have Jarvis. We are even. But if I want equipment, it must be designed and invented by myself. And he relies on Lucius instead. Tony chattered on and on. The role of Bruce Wayne has too many similarities with him. Definitely, there are also many differences. At least, if he is a superhero, he must be upright and open to the world, unlike Master Wayne, who will always hide in the world behind the mask. Okay, how much are you going to invest? Levi interrupted Tony's bragging. Who is better, Iron Man or Batman? Levi doesn't want to discuss this issue. The heads of the fans on both sides are almost smashed, and they haven't discussed it yet. Didn't he say this topic to scold? Invest, yes, invest, otherwise, why do you think I'm looking for you? Tell you a story. Are you short of money? Well, I'm short of money. The box office share of Biochemical Second hasn't arrived yet. Even if it does, I don't have any money. My company is on the rise. It takes money to buy servers and recruit people. Besides, my A team of chefs is not cheap. It costs more than 10 million a year. Levi looked like it was definitely a matter of course. He lacked money, but he didn't lack it either. It can only be said that as far as the current stage is concerned, there are too many places where he needs to spend money. All the money he has on hand needs to be spent, and this movie, spending hundreds of millions is not too much, so for a while he really can't get it out. I can invest. I want to play Bruce Wayne. As soon as these words came out, everyone present was shocked. Water? Good money, but Pepper was the first to speak out, looking at his boss like he was looking at a fool. Tony, you spend millions of dollars a day making movies? The loss of the group will be huge. I don't care. I'm going to shoot, and besides, isn't that my company? I have a lot of money, so if I lose money, I will lose money. Have I earned less these years? Tony said definitely. Well, let someone else make the movie I invested in. Besides, I want to change the script. What's the name of the heroine? Rachel. You play Pepper. She is not allowed to talk to the prosecutor later. Hart, right? She's not allowed to be with Hart. Only me. I mean, Bruce Wayne. Tony seemed to realize that his words were somewhat ambiguous, so he quickly added a sentence. Chapter 96. 2 Forsooth Stark. The dinners prepared by a dozen chefs in different ways are really attractive, so Tony often came to eat, and even Pepper, the personal secretary, got acquainted with the women in Levi family, and became best friends. As girlfriends, Natasha Romanoff and the others naturally knew Pepper's little thoughts about Tony. When they heard Tony's words, they all looked at Pepper with ambiguous smiles. Well, let's see through but not tell. A woman spends her best and brightest 10 years of youth on a man. If that is not love, then what is love? While Natasha Romanoff and others are paying attention to gossip, Levi is paying attention to another issue. You, playing Bruce Wayne? Well, it's not impossible, but your physique needs to be exercised. Would you like to use a stand-in even when wearing a mask? Without a mask, your physique is the same as he is too far behind. My figure? Hey, although I ate your food. 580. I will never allow you to insult my figure. I have been elected as the most attractive man in the 21st century. Tony roared, but his roar obviously aroused everyone's laughter. For a while, the garage was filled with a happy atmosphere, and Yingai and Gaianan laughed one after another. Oh, Tony, I didn't know you were so funny before. To be honest, you are only a bowl of rice away from being fat. Sky was almost laughing out of tears. Tony stayed at home all day doing handicrafts and occasionally went out for racing. Plus he went to Levi house every night to eat, and he ate several bowls of food. It's strange if he doesn't gain weight up. In the movie, after he became Iron Man, in order to make up for his fighting ability, he would do fighting training and various physical exercises every day, which made his physique look good, and he could even play 2 tricks with Bucky. But he is not the Iron Man of the future. Beft and Levi is not fooling Tony, but Bruce Wayne. Although he is not a muscular man like Arnold Schwarzenegger, at least he must have Guo Dastanson's muscles. After all, Wayne is the #1 fighter in the DC world, proficient in more than 170 kinds of martial arts. Tony's 2 or 2 small muscles are fine in a suit, where a set of tights a real treasure bio show. In fact, if Christian Bale's version of Batman is not too popular, it stands to reason that, even if Batman doesn't find a bodybuilding champion like Arnold to play, then you have to find someone with a figure like the Captain to play Batman. According to the original setting, Batman should actually be that kind of big guy, but after a long period of exercise and a special diet, he has made himself a big guy with extremely high flexibility and dexterity. That's why, when the manga party saw Dabbon's Batman, they felt very restored, because in the comics, Batman and Superman should have that kind of hard feeling, not the previous creaminess. And Tony is worse than Buttercup. He is not short of money. When a person's image needs to be described by not bad money, that kind of misery, Levi ridicule is fine. After all, Levi has shown his muscles, no matter in movies or in life. Don't get me wrong, he was only seen by Tony by the pool. His tendons are more than enough to play Superman, let alone Batman. So Tony can barely accept Levi ridicule about his poor physique. However, being looked down upon by a little girl like Sky made Binky very unhappy. Be careful what you say, little girl, who said I don't have muscles? Tony got up angrily, pointed at Sky and said loudly. Afterwards, he was even more angry and took off his clothes, aside throwing the small suit that he would never take off in hot weather, and rolled up his sleeves. Ladies and souls, Tony Stark's muscles. Tony opened his hands and took a deep breath at the same time. His stomach shrunk in hard. When he got up this morning, he remembered that he still had muscle lines. Ha 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 ha. The burst of laughter spread throughout the room. This time, even Pepper couldn't hold back anymore. She didn't know how to help her boss smooth things over. However, maybe she had to slow herself down first, or she might die laughing. It's here. Under the white shirt, there was a bare piece, and a round and round abdominal muscle protruded there, which proved to Tony that he was not bragging. The laughter made Tony feel uneasy. He looked up at the ceiling and slowly looked down. Water, what's the situation? I clearly saw that there are still others on the list. Tony reached out and touched his belly, trying to wipe that layer of fat aside and let his abdominal muscles return to the world. But maybe he was too full to eat, so that after touching for a long time, it may be that the pressed stomach is a bit uncomfortable. Not only did he not get out the abdominal muscles, but the stomach, that had been shrinking all the time, bounced back. Ha 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 ha. Tony, you are really a master of comedy. Levi, do you have a comedy script? I think you can't miss such a talented actor. Natasha Romanoff's coquettish laughter has not stopped since just now, and Sky also took up the conversation, came to Tony, and patted him on the shoulder with a serious face. I'm sorry, Tony. I apologize for what I said before. You are not one bowl away from being fat, and you have already eaten that bowl of rice. Ha 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 ha. Chapter 97 HMM. It smells so good. Even if I, Tony Stark, were to die, if I jumped from here, I would definitely never eat a bowl of rice from their house again. At night, sitting on Jazz's body, Tony, who brought his little secretary Pepper home, looked angrily at the mansion behind him. He has never felt the humiliation he received here tonight in his life. It is too shameful. Especially their mockery at the end. Humph, never eat it. However, 3 days later, well, it smells delicious. Tony smiled and swallowed the stir-fried beef tenderloin in his mouth, then put down the bowl in his hand, and breathed a sigh of relief. Belch. Mr. Stark, do you want more food? The maids hired from Japan with a lot of money served Tony intimately. for the existence of maids, although Natasha Romanoff, Sky and others felt uncomfortable at first. However, after enjoying the kind of meticulous service, except for eating and going to the toilet, almost everything is taken care of for you, then they soon fell into that kind of corruption point. What a free and democratic society does not need others to serve. We must pay attention to human rights. We must pay attention to the equality of everyone, etc. In the end, we still cannot escape the law of truth. It's just that they don't really treat maids like livestock like those feudal rulers in TV dramas and movies. As for Tony, he was the same, and he was even more used to it. After all, he had been served by Pepper for 8 years. Pepper even does things like get him a room with Covergirl, which makes him even more corrupt in a way. Hi, thank you, Jenna, but no need. I've eaten enough. I have to train later. Levi, who was enjoying his food, rolled his eyes. You ate 3 bowls of rice, 1 plate of beef tenderloin, oh, and 2 bowls of pork rib soup. I may not be a fitness coach, but I can tell you very clearly that, even if you practice to death tonight, you will still lose weight. Don't lose the heat. The girls giggling soon sounded out, but Tony, who had already recognized the reality, instantly became thicker than ever, as if wearing a layer of transparent steel armor. It's a little bit less. By the way, I think I should complain to you. Isn't it good for everyone to eat cheeseburgers honestly? Why do you hire a dozen chefs? Hey, Bob, I'm not talking about you. Don't look at it like this, look at me. And Mr. Ma, your beef tenderloin is delicious. Well, my fault. Seeing several chefs glaring at him, Tony decisively chose to admit his cowardice. He can hate Levi, but while eating the dishes made by the chefs, he said that Levi shouldn't invite them. Tony dared to speak behind his back. Finally, he finished eating, but even though he had finished dinner, seeing Tony's round belly, Levi also knew that tonight's training might start late. Let's go to eat first. By the way, let me tell you more about Bruce Wayne's story, so that you can have more experience with this character. Tony may have come to be an actor on a whim, but movies were more than Goldfinger to Levi. He was a director in the previous world, and movies were his interests and hobbies, as well as his passionate career, so, to do it, he must do his best. Even if Tony is most likely just here for fun, he has to train Tony to be a top actor as much as possible, asking for flowers. After all, no matter how bad it is, can it be worse than Yang Xianbao? In the spare time after dinner, Levi took Tony to wander around the mansion, telling the story of Batman while wandering, telling Tony from the story what kind of person, what kind of character, and what kind of thoughts Batman is. In fact, Levi is also very helpless, because in most Marvel worlds, there are DC comics, and characters such as Superman and Batman exist in their worlds like cinematic universe. However, this is also something that can't be helped. Who made Marvel have too many parallel universes? Point 0. The cinematic universe doesn't have mutant, yet X-Men alone is divided into 2 universes. For example, the old version of the trilogy is one universe, while the Wolverine trilogy and Deadpool are another universe, and Deadpool, through its own special, forcibly follows the X-Men. After reversing the future, they connected together. He came to this world without Superman and Batman comics. He is also very helpless. However, it's not just Yuzao and Hyperion. Levi pouted when he thought of this question. The Supreme High School is completely imitated by the Justice League. If there are comics about the Supreme High School in this world, but if he comes to shoot Superman and Batman again, someone will definitely scold him for plagiarism, but there is no situation better. Cause and effect, these things are still too troublesome. After chatting with Tony for a long time and basically sorting out the things about Bruce Wayne and Batman, Levi started to go back point, but Tony suddenly asked, by the way, you really won't act in this movie? It stands to reason that, even if you weren't the protagonist in the previous few movies, you would definitely appear. I don't think you are the kind of person who will let go of everything. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 98. The more you brag, the more awesome you are. The invincible sun god. You know me pretty well. Levi was slightly taken aback by Tony's question, but he nodded quickly. That's right, although I won't play the leading role, I will still play a role. Your teacher, Rahul, because of the judgment of the system, Levi must occupy 2 or more of the actor, producer, director, and screenwriter to be credited as his movie point. So Levi was destined to star in a large number of movies in order to accumulate enough box office points for himself. Otherwise, a deleted version of the Sun God power would cost 1.5 billion, a Man of Steel version of Superman would cost 2 billion, and a Fire Seed source would cost 5 billion. When will I be able to catch one film at a time? So he had to make some tricks, but it wasn't about this part. He just wanted to set the rules from this part. In the future, any movie whose script comes out of me will see me in it. Even if it is a passerby, I will also make a guest appearance. Levi wants to think of himself as a mascot, which is learned from Stan Lee, who may be found in this world, and the original world is dead. As a Marvel fan, traveling to the Marvel world is a kind of tribute to him. But isn't Rahul an old man? Also, you said earlier that Batman's world and Wonder Woman's world are connected. How can you play 2 characters at the same time? Hearing Tony's inquiry, Levi was very happy, which showed that Tony had listened to his own words. Good question. This is actually related to a foreshadowing that I buried in a Wonder Woman movie about the sun god. According to Levi's setting, he will appear in his own DC movie universe in a special way in the future. That is, the incarnation of the sun god. Countless incarnations come from the incarnation of the sun god point. This includes Apollo point. There is also Jonathan, who may appear in the Superman movie in the future. That is, Clark's adoptive father, Bruce Wayne's master Rahul, the leader of the Green Lantern Corps, etc. point. They are all incarnations of the real sun god pointer. Sun god that contains all fixed stars, endless light, infinite life, and symbolizes absolute power and strength. Apollo, La and even Danhyeontae are all projections of this sun god, and he will also run through the entire DC movie universe. This is for practical considerations. After all, without creating such a powerful character, Levi is very confident that, if he can't grab the gloves at that time, he may not be able to beat Purple Sweet Potato Essence point. The Man of Steel Superman is 2 billion, and even if Levi does not use the method of exchange, but grows naturally, when the Man of Steel version of Superman grows into a golden Superman, he will have to retreat in the sun for a full 10,000 years. In the period of Sacheo and Superman's sword, Levi estimated that he would have to make 100 years of movies to be able to redeem that kind of Superman point. So, simply, go dark on the road of the sun god. What Superman blood? Don't. Every DC movie, Levi adds a layer of buff to the sun god. The more you blow it, the more awesome it is. It's over. Blow it to the end. It is estimated that what Levi exchanged is an invincible boss. Moreover, there is still room for continuous improvement. Things about the movie began to be handled step by step. Tony was working out, working hard on his muscles, and ran to Levi's house every day for a meal, and then was repaired in the gym. Sometimes it's Levi, sometimes it's Natasha Romanoff who fixes Sky and the others while they work out. And with Tony's injection of capital, the production team has also begun intensive preparations. The advanced production of special effects scenes, the selection of locations for certain locations, and the selection of supporting roles are all in progress. After all this was finally over, Levi planned to take 2 days off, take the girls at home, to go out to have fun, and went to a certain snow-capped mountain that was selected as the home of the League of Assassins to see the scenery. But something happened to him. But this time, Levi was quite happy. Well, we have someone to play Superman. A big muscular guy with a sense of justice at first glance, and a natural born virgin. Apart from him, Levi can't think of anyone who is more suitable for this role. Definitely, before that, Levi has to go and revive people first point in the North Pole sub-base of Cheyenne Bureau. Levi looked at Hill while looking at the man in the ice. How did you find him? Plate drift, plus the melting of glaciers caused by global warming. Can you save Mom? Hill knew some of Levi tricks, so he was invited this time point according to the expert research of Cheyenne Bureau. Although the old man in the ice Cube is not dead yet. If the ice is broken rashly, it may cause very dangerous consequences. Is there any help? Remove the word, and I may consider not holding you accountable. Levi said with his head held high. Point to say such things to the great sun god is simply an insult to him. Okay, Lord Sun God, please save this poor guy. After all, he is also a war hero. To be precise, he is the most popular star in the world. The Captain of the United States. While Hill was talking, Levi's palm had already been pressed down, and his warm palm was pressed against the cold ice. In the ice, a man was holding a shield, his eyes closed, and he fell into a deep sleep. Laugh. Chapter 99 Captain America bought by the inner mother, just woke up, and was knocked out. The blazing and warm divine power shone on the ice like sunlight. Hill was shocked when he saw this, and couldn't help, but stepped forward, and took Levi's hand. How could you make such a sudden shot? It's very dangerous. We must ensure his safety. Although Hill doesn't consider herself a crazy fan of this man, she can't just watch this hero die in front of her. Relax. With me here, it's impossible for him to have an accident. Then you can't act like this. At least tell me to cooperate with you. Hill's eyebrows were raised. It's not that she overreacted, but that Levi shot too fast. The doctors next to him didn't react, and the instruments monitoring the man's vital signs didn't move. Crash. The rapid melting of the ice cubes made the entire hospital bed quickly turn into water. At this moment, Hill couldn't care less about blaming Levi. She hurriedly asked the doctors to prepare for any accidents once the ice cubes melted. If there is an abnormality, give first aid immediately. She originally only asked Levi to be an assistant, which was regarded as an insurance, but Levi's reckless behavior made her a little bit hard to get off now. But Levi didn't care. The sun is the source of life. Billions of life on the earth, all survived by the warmth of the sun. Without sunlight, the earth would not be any different from other planets. Even if it is Mars, does Mars have no water? However, because Mars is farther from the sun, the water on Mars is all ice, which cannot breed the seeds of life at all. Wake me up. Pushing the doctors away with a wave of his hand, a huge amount of divine power was directly driven into the body of the man in the ice by Levi. Boom. Vertical bar. With a soft sound, the last trace of floating ice was completely shattered, revealing the soft skin underneath, and the body that still maintained vitality. The slender eyelashes trembled slightly, and in the next second, the man on the hospital bed, Steve Levi, the Captain of the United States, stood up and was dissolved first, and the shield placed by the bed was directly grabbed by him and blocked in front of him. A standard tactical defensive action. The man whose memory still stays in the World War 70 years ago looked at the people in the room vigilantly and was on guard. Hey, relax. Why are you so nervous? Levi beckoned, but in an instant, his figure swayed in the room, and then a shield appeared in his hand, and on the table next to him, all the weapons of the agents of the Heavenly Sword Bureau who drew their guns and pointed at the captain were all cleared. Put it there. Hey, there is no weapon. Now, can you calm down and talk properly? Levi smiled at Hill and showed her his prize, the artifact shield from the Captain of the United States. However, in the next second, the captain who was captured by the shield was like a lion starting to hunt, and the whole person rushed out, aiming at the table full of weapons, and his speed of action was so fast that there is no slightest inflexibility because of the ice. In fact, thanks to Levi's magical powers, he returned to his prime. Hill tilted his head, pointed to the captain who had already picked up the gun, and said that this is your pretend time, and it's time for you to make a move. Boom. The round shield was like a cauldron. Levi suddenly appeared beside the captain. The cauldron was directly covered and knocked on the captain's head. This guy who hadn't cleared his mind until now passed out immediately. Maybe he just woke up and his mind is still a little unclear. I suggest that it's better to shut it up first. Then you don't need to knock him out. I feel the need. After all, except me, no one seems to be able to control him, and I don't want to touch his plump body. I only like the plump body of women, Levi said with a smile. The rest of the agents in the room laughed, and Levi looked at them, then turned his eyes to Hill, and glanced at her in a serious manner. Well, taping, at least not as big as this 90-year-old who fainted, watching Several agents lift the old man to and from the temporary prison, and someone came to clean up the water stains. Levi followed the agents to the room over there. But when passing by Hill, I heard a cold snort. Hey, don't be unconvinced. It was remodeled. Yours is small, but it's natural anyway. Don't worry, I don't dislike it. What responded to Levi was Hill's glare. She was about to say something, but she looked around like a guilty conscience, and found that no one was paying attention to them, so she hurriedly said, "You'd better dislike it. It's not a good thing to be missed by you." The cold words sound very impersonal, but Levi is keenly aware of Hill's wandering, wowing gaze. Listen to me, some things are not as you imagined. At least, Natasha Romanoff is very happy, isn't it? And, how long has monogamy been in existence? 200 years? Or 300 years? Come on, the history of human polygamy continues. Haven't human beings been in love for thousands of years? Levi knows where Hill's prejudice against him is, and he has been trying to dispel this prejudice. Hill is not like Natasha Romanoff, who can do anything for love. She never cared about what is the only one in this life. All she needs is love. Because she has never had it, and it is more difficult to get it, so she knows how precious it is to have it than anyone else. But Hill is different. Chapter 100. It seems that Captain America can be filmed in Marvel. Although Hill and Natasha Romanoff are best friends, Hill is a typical feminist. She believes that what men can do, women can also do well. And this, she proved with her actual actions. She is the most outstanding graduate of S.H.I.E.L.D. Academy. She overwhelmed many seniors at a young age, and became the deputy director of S.H.I.E.L.D. She became the right-hand man of Nick Fury. His name is also well known among the president. Hill doesn't think she needs to rely on men, and she also wants to be in a dominant position when it comes to love. Therefore, it is almost impossible for her to bear the matter of co-husband with another woman, even if that woman is her best friend. But now, in her opinion, Levi is a typical male chauvinist. A man like him, 257, can't wait to keep all the beautiful women in cages and turn them into canaries. And that's exactly what Hill loathes and hates the most. However, this preconceived idea had a lot of conflicts with her contact cognition with Levi. Levi is considerate, warm, talented, and powerful. In the eyes of women, this is almost a perfect object. And like Levi said, isn't Natasha Romanoff happy? Seeing Levi leaving back, Hill, who kept asking himself, took a deep breath, then walked forward with his head held high. In the room, the captain was lying flat on the bed. This is a special prison, which used to detain people with special abilities. After the power is turned on, the surrounding walls will emit special electromagnetic waves, making the super ability invalid. Well, at least useful against mutants. Definitely, the walls next to the room are very strong. In addition to shielding super abilities, they can also detain some special people, like Captain Hiss. The super recovery force made Steve regain consciousness quickly. He first took a breath, then sat up suddenly, and rushed to the door like a cheetah. There, a man was sitting on a chair, and watching him quietly. "Go back," Levi said softly, but the voice was like the sound of Hang Zhangdao echoing around, resounding in the hearts of everyone around. And Steve, who bore the brunt, was more like being hit by a sledgehammer, flew back at a faster speed than before, and sat down on the bed. "Steve, Eluogize, Captain of the United States, I hope you calm down. After all, we are not your enemy." Levi gestured, and then the agent outside quickly flipped a switch, and then a series of videos began to play on a screen in the room. A video about how the world has changed since World War II. The captain, who was sent flying to the bed by a single sentence, just got up and suddenly saw the video in front of him. Maybe he knew that he was not Levi's opponent. After calming down a little, he focused, BC, on the video. So, after 10 minutes, he was silent. "What's wrong? I can't believe that people haven't let go of their hatred for 70 years and are still eating junk food and producing garbage." Levi definitely isn't mocking some former Berger fanatic. However, in the face of Levi ridicule, the captain did not respond, but said in a slightly desolate manner, I seem to be late for an appointment." He seems to have no chance to make up for that dance 70 years ago. However, Levi, who already knew he was going to say this sentence, smiled. No, it's not terrible to be late. The terrible thing is to be absent forever. I have good news for you, Steve. Miss Peggy Carter is still alive. In an instant, those big bright eyes seemed to be lit up. Steve's round eyeballs looked at Levi, and his mouth grew wide, followed by a burst of ecstasy. Peggy is still alive. My god, that's great. Wait, if she's still alive, wouldn't it already be there? Let me do the math. 93 years old. You really didn't lie to me. You know, during the war years, the average life expectancy, even if it was not an accidental death, was only over 40 years old. Now Levi actually told him that Peggy Carter was still alive, which is simply unbelievable. Ah, yes, an old lady in her 90s, lying in a hospital bed all day, with a little dementia. Her memory seems to be unable to last a day, and she needs full care. But she is still alive, the young man's first love. What a beautiful story. Levi really wants to see this scene, and even he can help a little. The power of life has many functions. One is to maintain youth, and the other is to restore youth. The love story of the Captain of the United States. Think about it. I starred in it, made it into a movie, and the box office, no matter how many billions per minute. I'm sorry for the name of the Captain of the United States. The #1 idol in the world. The endorsement fee generated by the image endorsement of Captain America alone can support a fleet of the US military every year. And now Captain America himself plays his own story. The key is that now the male 1, male 2, female 1, and Levi are all involved. Key is alive. Chapter 101. Odin, how can I have your stupid son? My film company is called Marvel, so why not make 1 or 2 Marvel movies? And the most suitable for this world, of course, is Captain America. In fact, there are many Captain America movies in this world. His comics, movies, and various peripherals have not been missing in the past 70 years. After all, it is the official popular idol, the symbol of the spirit of the United States. But this time, Levi used the Captain himself, plus Peggy himself and Bucky himself, the 3 original crew members to shoot. The influence and publicity effect they brought are naturally incomparable. Therefore, this movie is definitely going to be a hit, and definitely, now is not the time. Even if the news of the Captain's resurrection spreads now, most people will not believe it. It needs an opportunity, a sufficiently important event for the Captain to stand up again and return to the public's view. Moreover, it is best to use a hero image appears well. The timing is almost like no other. The New York War, when the Captain was ecstatic, sitting on a chair like a child, and being examined by the doctors, he leaned next to Levi again. Ah. You taking him away? Yes. What's the problem? Levi looked like it was definitely a matter of course. Is there a problem? It's a big problem. Why did you take him away? Why did you take him away? He is from the Heavenly Sword Bureau, and we discovered him. Hill was a little annoyed. She invited Levi here. She just wanted Levi to do a favor. But now, Levi took everyone away. What is she? Make a wedding dress for someone else? Oh, did you make a mistake? This is a person, not an item. He should decide his own ownership. It's just that I may offer a higher price. We can also take him to see Peggy Carter. Hill was still unconvinced. Every time she met this man, she felt so aggrieved every time. But I can rejuvenate Peggy Carter, can you? And, don't forget, Bucky is with me. What? Bucky, classmate. Steve with sharp ears heard the word immediately point to him. Peggy Carter was a goddess, but Bucky, that was first love. Yes, your good brother, Staff Sergeant Bucky Barnes. He is not dead. How is it? Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Well, this time, Hill has no other choice. She can't come up with anything more attractive to keep the Captain, so she can only watch the Captain being kidnapped by Levi. She still has to eat, serve people deliciously, prepare planes with them, and prepare various services. Fuck, the innocent desk gets hit hard by Hill. Facing that man, she was really helpless. Even if I die here, the Heavenly Sword Bureau will be disbanded on the spot, and the world will perish tomorrow, and I will never ask that guy to help me again. HMPH. Hill roared in his heart. And in at the moment's domain, there is also a person roaring, and it is the roar of the boss. Thor, you are weak-hearted, you arrogant, uneducated guy. Get out of here. I don't have a son like you. Get out of here. On the throne of the God King, Odin roared as he rode his gunny just now. He just learned that his foolish son secretly made a bet with the idiot of Mount Olympus without telling him, and then rushed to Jotunheim, the country of the giants of Jotunheim, with the giants of Jotunheim alone. Lorth, king of Jotunheim, had a fight point. The point is, it doesn't matter if he wins the fight, but he still loses the fight. Pity him for Odin's old face, and the guys from White Olympus ridiculed wildly, asking for flowers. Father, I'm sorry, don't call me King Father. I am not your King Father. Whoever you like, get the hell out of here, you bastard. You're mad at me. The bruised and swollen Thor who fought with Lorth pouted, and was scolded by Odin. Although he was used to the love from his father when he was very young, this time, the embarrassment was thrown outside. You don't learn from the good, but learn from the bad. You are Thor, not the god of war. Our god of war is Yuggothia. Although he is dead, it is not your turn. You say that as the whole big fool, being lied to and tricked by people all day long, not once or twice. What are you betting with him? What are you betting on? Ah, and you, Heimdall, you said you have nothing to show him Midgard's stuff, so it's so fake. You can believe the fake ones. If Ares is so smart, the sand sculpture of Olympus can still hide on the mountain and not come down. Sorry. Heimdall lowered his head, not daring to look directly at Odin in front of him. He definitely can't say he didn't expect Thor to be so out of his mind. He'd just show the guy a movie and be done with it. Fortunately, he ran to Mount Olympus to taunt Ares. Who doesn't know the temper of that reckless Ares? Can it work? But that's their lair. Even if doesn't like that reckless man, it's better than you as everyone and outside of the result was good. Athena ran out to flicker. The son of the great Odin, Thor, the god of thunder, ran to single out the giants of Jotunheim, but was pinned to the ground and rubbed, and then all the gods of the 9 worlds watched this spectacular scene. Odin didn't kill this guy, because only 2 of his sons were dead. If those guys in Terbalder were still there, Odin would have killed his relatives long ago. Chapter 102 Heimdall, Thor, are you still my heartless brother? Get out, get out. The door opened, and Thor walked out with a swollen face, while Heimdall followed behind, holding his big sword, and preparing to go back to stand guard. Suddenly, Thor, who was walking in front, stopped. Boom. What are you doing? When 2 men in armor bumped into each other, it was like iron barrels fighting each other, and the sound was very clear and sweet. Heimdall looked at his bad friend. This time he was a disaster for no reason, but no one could blame others, who let him share such a 205 brother. I'm going to Midgard. Oh. Heimdall took 2 steps forward, but stopped when he reached the 3rd step. 720. What are you talking about? I'm going to Earth. I'm going to find the guy who made the movie. What's his name? Levi, right? I'm going to find him, because of his swollen face. Thor, who could only squint to see people, suddenly showed a gleam of wisdom in his eyes. Movies are a good thing. I heard that this is the hottest thing on the planet. Billions of people watch movies every year, right? Thor suddenly laughed. Tell me, if I'll let that guy make Thor a powerful and invincible god, will I be able to save my reputation? Think about it. The legend of Thor is widely circulated on the earth. The most powerful god, the most valiant warlord. Heimdall took 2 steps away, then stared at Thor up and down. This is still his heartless brother. Look at this IQ. Look at this little head. Who dares to say that Thor can only be a hammer? He is the first to refuse. Thinking of this, Heimdall raised his great sword and carried it on his shoulder. That's right, Thor. The warrior's prestige must be manifested on the battlefield, and the warrior's honor must be spread in all worlds. Go, I will help you. Let the people of Midgard praise you. Praise you save Asgard's lost reputation, and Odin will naturally calm down when the time comes. Thor nodded emphatically. Hiss. Oh, it hurts. It hurts. I'm dying. When Levi took Steve to his mansion, successfully met Bucky and his nephew Tony, and hosted a grand dinner for them, there was always a surprise. Boom. Rainbow beams of light descend from the sky like swords on the manicured grounds outside Levi house. Boom boom boom. The shaking of the house made Levi wonder for a while whether his house on the edge of the sea cliff would fall, but before he recovered from the surprise, the voice as loud as a cow had already sounded. Cough. Midgard, noble son of Odin, future lord of Asgard, god of thunder, invincible brave powerful first warrior Thor of the EC Protoss descends. Come and greet him soon. At the dining table, the happy people sitting together and chatting looked at each other. You looked at me, I looked at you, and finally, all eyes fell on Levi. You go. Why am I going? This is your home. Who will you go to if you don't? Well, I've sold it to you now. This is your home. I'll move out tomorrow. Looking at the smug Levi, Tony was stunned. He had never seen such a brazen person. There are generally only two situations where people use this kind of opening remarks. One is sand sculptures. I don't want to pay attention to this kind of people. And the second one is sand sculpture gods. I don't want to pay attention to them. Levi looked at Tony with innocent eyes, saying that he is a person who pays attention to spiritual purity and is not used to contacting sand sculptures. Then, I'm willing. You ate my food. PFFT. Tony spat out a mouthful of old blood point, but he had no choice but to eat people with a short mouth. So, under the sympathetic eyes of everyone, Tony got up helplessly and walked towards the door, and over there, huge amounts of voices were still shouting, adding adjectives in front of their names. Wow, come out and see the sand sculptures. As soon as he opened the door, Tony let out an extremely long exclamation, then shouted with a smile coming. Levi and the others immediately got up and ran out in a swarm. Wow, what kind of scene is this? Hibilyukiu's armor is badly damaged, and his two big hairy legs are exposed, which is very eye-catching. That's not the point. The point is that this person's face with a bruised nose and swollen face is like being punched 100 times with a fist, but it turned out that he wasn't good looking enough, so he kicked him 1,000 times, and the cute little hammer in the hand is like the finishing touch. Highlighting the image of the whole person into 3 points. Sure. Enough sand sculpture. Levi nodded and said he didn't know why the sledgehammer made it like this, but it didn't prevent him from laughing happily at the moment. However, holding the sledgehammer himself was a little unhappy. Think of him as the god of thunder, the heir of Asgard, the invincible warrior whose name is sung in the 9 realms, but when he came to the earth, he was laughed at by a group of mortals he despised. How can this motherfucker be embarrassed? Boom. There was a thunderclap. Thor stepped on it with his big foot, and the hard concrete pavement was smashed by him directly, and a powerful momentum burst out, rushing towards the people in front of him. And those small eyes hidden under the swelling gave off a dangerous light. Cough, cough. What's this guy's name? Tony said decisively. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.